All my devices are occupied. I have to get another device for. So we'll see how it goes. So that way I can't be changing apps on the device. I'll not be able to concentrate. So we'll see how that goes. But I'll let you know whenever we're going on X. But then we have stuff on X. We have Thursday afternoon, but it's a special Thursday. It's a special one. Today is Nigeria's Democracy Day, and it's a blessing to have democracy. That's the reason I played the song Surulere by Lagbaja. That came, I think that song was released 99 or 2000 thereabout. And for those of us who understand, or at least you've read, even if you were not there, you must have read about things that happened before we're able to secure democracy, and we have a duty to preserve it and to also build our nation and not retrogress like some clowns want us to by talking about military government. And there will not be a coup at all, because it wasn't fun living under the military. And I think a lot of young people will talk about wanting it. Maybe their parents did not tell them. Um, I didn't believe what I saw last week. With Abacha. Um, to be fair, there's no person who doesn't have any good sides to him. Like, you can't be so terrible that there's nothing good about you. But you also cannot whitewash someone that was evil. Just because you talk about how evil they were doesn't mean you're saying there's no good to them. But what is being done right now is whitewashing. And the problem with that is you romanticize the past and you give people this hope or this yearning for what's not true. And then they will make the mistake that let them go back to what you were actually running away from in the first place, which is the nonsense, which is the stupidity I see in the nonsense on social media. People start glorifying, military regime and everything. It took a lot. And a lot of people also paid the ultimate sacrifice for us to have what we have right now in Nigeria. It may not be perfect, but it's definitely not what it used to be, right? And I also said earlier that I use this opportunity to pray that God will, bless and protect the family of Chief MK Abiola and all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice for the democracy that we now enjoy in Nigeria. It's a privilege, it's a blessing, and I think our job really is to do everything we can to ensure that we keep the system that we have now, that will make it better. It's not what it should be, but we're not where we used to be. So our job is to make it better, not to. All right. So that's that. We're going to talk about it. By the way, let me read some of these things to you from. Since we're talking about people who pay the sacrifice, and thankfully, our president right now was one of those people who paid the sacrifice. Not the ultimate one, thank God he's still alive, but then they went through a lot, under the same Abacha that everybody's talking about. Abalufon, thank you. You're writing Abacha stove. Oh, yes. I've said it here before. And there's something about Nigerians, though. We're very, what's the word I'm looking for? We can take anything. We're tenacious. We have this thing where no matter how terrible things are, we can easily adapt and make something good out of situations. You know, before you know what was happening, we had, Abacha stove, sawdust. I actually had an accident because of that stove in 1995. I was trying to do something for my family, long story. The point is that because I still carry that scar, I know that people who talk about Abacha, they don't know what they're talking about. They have no idea what they're talking about. It was terrible, terrible times. But we thank God for where we are now, and we pray that it gets better, and that nation will work. Um, I just read out some names of people that the president plans is honoring on this day, on this Democracy Day. The national honor that will be granted to them. So Professor Wale Soyinka will be GCON, Grand Commander of the Order of Nigeria. Professor Olatunji Dare, CON, the journalist and journalism teacher. Kunle Ajibade, OON, Nosa Igebo, OON, Dapo Olorunyomi, OON, Bayo Ononuga, CON, Ayobe, OON, Dari Babarinsa, I'm happy for him, CON. By the way, I had to pause on that because when you hear Tell magazine back then, that's Dari Babarinsa. One of these days, we're going to review his books. It was one of Chibolage's disciples, fantastic writer. That's one of his books, so one of these days we'll have conversations on his books. So Dara Barinsa, CON, Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, CON as well, Senator Shehu Sani, CON, Governor Uba Sani, CON, Barrister Femi Falana-San, CON, Professor Shafi Dinamowo, CON, Barrister Luke Ageneno, OON, Senator Tokumba Fikuyomi, CON, Honorable Labran Mako, Nasarawa, OON, Dr. Tunji Alausa, CON, Dr. Nick Danzang, OON, Honorable Abdul Oro, OON, Odia Femon, that was Papa's private secretary, CON, Sheye Kendi, OON, Barrister Felix Moka, CON, Barrister Ledum Miti, CON, Honorable Olawale Oshun, CON, Dr. Amos Akingba, Professor Shegun, this are all CON, Professor Shegun Badigeshin, CON, Mobolaji Akinyemi, CFR, Dr. Kayode Shonoiki, CON, Professor Julius Ionveri, CON, Professor Bayo Williams, CON, Senator Abu Ibrahim. Please don't stop tapping on TikTok, CON, and Senator Ame Ebute, CFR, Uncle Sam Amuka Pemo, Ken Sarawiwa, CON, the leader of the Ogoni 9 and his fellow travelers, Saturday Dobi, OON, Nodu Ewo, OON, Daniel Boko, OON, Paul Levara, OON, Felix Noate, OON, Barry Bobera, OON, Barry Nem Kiobel, OON, and John Buine, OON. I didn't see Odisagwakoba there. I think Odisagwakoba already has. I think he already has a national honor as well. I think he already does. Let me check. This number. Yeah, so those are the names. I see what you're writing in the comment section. God bless. God forgive you guys for the shots you are throwing at some of these people. Yes. Oisakwakoba already has OON. Was given in 2001 by President Olusegun Obasanjo. Yeah, I knew he had national honors. All right, and I'm actually happy that Professor Wole Soyinka is getting GCON. And the Kokori you mentioned, I don't think it's not a list of people who fought. It's a list of people who are getting national honors. Kokori is no longer alive. Frank Kokori passed on years ago. So, yeah. Of course, there are children of hate and perdition in the comment section asking what Soyinka has done. Or like, maybe you should go and ask your daddy what Soyinka did. And tí ò ní rò ẹni ọ̀lẹ mọ́ yẹni lọ́rọ̀ Nàìjíríà yìí. And to be honest, I see things, there are many Yoruba there because they're the most people who fought for this thing. That's the problem with this country. You see, when people talk about, and I'm not saying the North doesn't take advantage of it. Of course, the North does. But, hey, you know, the network back. But, But for the most part, hey, my network. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. I was saying that a lot of the times when we talk about quota system, federal character, people insult the North and say, oh, the North is taking advantage of it. And it's true, the North does take advantage of quota system and that. But if you really think about it, there are regions in this country that the only reason they are getting what they are getting is because of federal character and quota system. Remove that, there's nothing else that they can actually say they are doing for Nigeria. Of course, Zagaza is the same people. There's the reason some people get some things in this country, quota system. You look at it with the North because it's glaring. Oh, out of school children and all of that, which is terrible, which they have to work on, Almajiri and all of those things. And but I think even that we stereotype the North when it comes to this quota system itself. For instance, ABU is one of the best universities in this country. BUK is also very good. Bayero University, Kano. They have some fantastic schools up north. When people say, quota system, it's just once you have 120, you get to invest in. I lie. And so when you're talking about numbers of people here, people who deserve national honors, you're saying, oh, it's Yoruba. Where are not Igbo? You didn't fight. Which is what I say. And we have to say it very well. Make sure we have digital footprint of what we're saying right now. And then tell our children as well. In the next 25 years, 20 to 25 years from now, there'll be a lot of, if Nigeria is still intact, I hope it is, but of course not this way, you're going to have a lot of tears from the Southeast about the promotions that will take place in the army in 20 to 25 years' time. Watch it. Because now they say join soldier, join officer corps, join the army. You say no. When we start getting ahead, now start saying, oh, marginalization. It's the same thing that's happening here. This was 1993. Those who fought. I'm not saying there were no Southerners, Easterners amongst them. Of course, there were people like Ndubisi, Kano. There are people who fought Ebitu, Kiwe. A couple of, you find, like I always say, like you find good things here and there. It's not like everything is pitch black. There's shining stars here and there. But generally speaking, for the most part, people just need to understand that, the only way they can get what they want is to get involved. Who conducted the election? Let me ask you a question. Who refused to announce the election results? Eyebrow, that's the question to you. Who refused to announce the election results? That's my question to you, Eyebrow. If you tell me the answer, I'll tell you your own answer. I'll tell you the answer to your question if you tell me the answer to your question. And then that way we'll be fine. Until then, enjoy. I'm going to read. Jesus. Let's see. How do we do this? There's a lot of stuff to read. So I'm trying to balance between what we really want to discuss and June 12. Today's topic and June 12. It's a propaganda switcher. You guys were born with it, Eyebrow. That's all you guys do, where you come from. It's just propaganda, nothing else, nothing of substance apart from propaganda. It's quite early, Eyebrow. I don't think you want me to start this way because and Leo. And Le Biba. So if you want to go that route, please feel free. Why did you mute him? I'll respond to him. Last, he will have to go back home and go and ask his parents. Because if you want to move that way, I have no problem with it. All is fair in love and war. Yeah, Yoruba, by the way, please, I'm coming just in for reasons. Why do you have to say that, Samuel? Why? This is what Yoruba bots do. I am Yoruba bot. You don't need to just Chill. Nobody's fighting anybody. Whether you're Igbo, you're Hausa, or you're TVO, Ayepo, you can sit anywhere you like. In my father's house, there are many rooms. But if anybody moves mad, not you, if anybody moves mad, they will collect. Are you talking about somebody refusing to announce results? Did somebody not refuse to announce the result? When they asked me a question, who conducted it? And I said, who refused to announce results? If he answers my question, I will answer his question. I thought that was fair. But if you want to help him answer, please feel free to. I have no problem answering your question. All right, we'll come back to all of this. Let's get started with some of the reports or statements made. Let's start with the one by the president. Excuse me, this was at the National Assembly. It's quite long. I'm just going to cut a part of it. I've done my little research, and I know you could have. You couldn't because he was waiting. Waiting for who? See, I did that session here the other day. Let's not get into it. There's nothing like he couldn't. What do you mean he couldn't? What do you mean he couldn't? Listen, he didn't, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him because he did. I mean, maybe that was all he could do, or he did what he could do. The point is, he tried, but then he didn't do. I mean, kò bá ṣe. Yorùbá sọ pé Bíbélì gan ló sọ ẹni tó bá forí tì dópin la ó gbàlà. Ẹni tó bá fi orí tì dópin la ó gbàlà. So the point is, if you can't come around with asking me who conducted it, let me also ask you who refused to announce it, because he could have announced it at his own detriment if he wanted to. So if I can understand why he wouldn't announce it or why he didn't announce it, and I'm like, you know what, I get it, like he's human, he didn't do it, and that's okay. You also have to understand why telling me that he organized it means nothing. Thank you. Tiolola, Carson, good to see you. All right, let's listen to the president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the president of Nigeria, and who also was one of the people who actually fought for all of these things that we now, regardless of how people feel about it, that's the truth. All right, let's take a listen.
I stand before this joint session of our National Assembly, a part of people. Today, as I enter this grand edifice built from the sweat and toil of our democratic yearning, my heart stirred. It was a blend of accomplishment and resolve. I felt a sense of collective accomplishment when I realized how far we had come as a nation. Since 1999, democracy has risen from the ashes and destitution of military rule to take its original rightful place as the only mode of governance of resilient and beloved people. With every footstep I took through this hallowed hall, up to the moment I now stand before you, I remember that we still have so much and a lot for that to go. To achieve this progress, we sought an elective office to lead this nation forward. Thus, I hereby affirm before you, our merciful and almighty God, and all men, and resolve to do all that I could do to safeguard and build our democracy as the defined hand intended.
All right, we'll come back to, we'll move on to something else now. So there is So I'll be going from video to text. This I want you to watch this first. This is by the governor of Anambra State.
Say continuity. They are inadvertently bemoaning the absence of ideology in party or governance. Ideology is therefore the soul of a political party. And in a multi-party democracy, it is the only way to ensure policy program continuity and sustainable progress. And just come with me. On this score, our past may be the beacon to our future. The gains of the Second and Third Republics in terms of rigorous ideological debates and struggles have literally disappeared. I invite you to review the ideology. 6 political parties in the Second Republic: Nigerian People's Party, People's Redemption Party, PRP, and Unity Party of Nigeria, UPN, and later the Nigeria Advanced Party of Tunji Braithwaite. I can still healthcare at all levels, comprehensive rural development, and a strong national economy. These were like, people sang them, something of this nature. I can still remember them decades. I was just getting into the university then, and in the university days, we were debating all of this. I can still remember them. All the 6 states controlled by Chief Obafemi Awolowo's UPN implemented its programs on free education and free medical services. And all free critical moment.
By the way, that was at the platform it's holding right now in Lagos, organized by the Covenant Nation, pastored by Pastor Pojo Emade. So he's hosting some of these people to talk to. That's Governor Soludo, and also I think former Governor Babatunde Raji Fashola is also there, and a few other, fantastic speakers. But anyway, that's from there. Just also reiterate the fact that sometimes we have to look into our history to discover what we need to move forward. And we're not retrogressing, we're just learning from the past. All right? And that's why nobody should come and say, why are you always talking about history? It's because we have lessons to learn from the past. Something good happened, I think it was yesterday. Our own fella has been inducted into Grammys Hall of Fame 2025, and his album Zombie has been, with his album Zombie. So that's something good from the music industry. We are happy for fella. If you were around in 93, you should know this music. Let me play it. I'm sure you two will not mind the copyright issue. So let me play this. You must know this thing if you were around in 93.
Now why for this life, oh, now so palava. I tire for this problem, I tire for life, oh, Guinea. No work, no food, no house, no life. This small water, then they bring now so dirty, they pull am. This small money, I they get now social transport, they chop am. School, oh, now headache, hospital, no work. I tire for life, oh, my brother. Waiting you, they think, oh, my sister. Help don't come, SDP, MKO, Kingibe, action. MKO, Kingibe, SDP, progress. Abiola na the hope, SDP na the party to solve our problem and better our life, oh. MKO, action. Abiola, progress. Now he be the hope for better tomorrow.
I just want to remind us the jingle from 1993. It gets better for us, like Barolon. as when people say have the same complaints. I'm hoping that we're able to actually build a better nation based on that. But that was, I mean, nostalgic. All right. So let me read to you. How do we do this? So we're going back and forth, okay? Something from the Ministry of Education, but I'm going to read from Sahara Reporters. One second. Nigeria government disowns textbooks alleging Igbo founding of Ile-Ife. I saw the letter yesterday, and this is why it's important to speak up. Let nobody say, oh, what's the big deal? Don't talk. So I'll read this from here, then I'll also read the letter. The Nigerian government has responded to a petition alleging the distortion of Yoruba history in Nigerian school textbooks, particularly over claims that Ile-Ife, the ancestral home of the Yoruba people, was founded or first occupied by the Igbo. The petition, titled Petition to Defend Yoruba History from Ethnic Distortion in Nigerian Textbooks, was submitted by the concerned citizens of Yoruba origin and supporters of truth. It was signed by the group's national chairman, Otumba Abayomi Odunowo, and addressed to the Federal Ministry of Education, Nigerian Educational Research and Development Council, National Assembly Committee on Education, State Education Ministries, and other institutions. According to the petition, 2 books, Standard History Studies for GSS 1 to 3 by Tony and Ijoma Duru, and the Igbo People History and Worldview by Dons Eze and Chinedu Ochinanwata, contains false narratives that present Ile-Ife as originally settled by the Igbo before Dudu allegedly invaded and drove them out. The attention of the Federal Ministry of Education has been drawn to a petition title. So I'm going to read, let me read the letter that the Federal Ministry itself wrote. So I'm not just reading the newspaper. Let's just go to the letter itself. So this is from the Federal Ministry of Education, Office of Director, Press and Public Relations, distorted instructional materials in schools. The attention of the Federal Ministry of Education has been drawn to a petition titled Petition to Defend Yoruba History from Ethnic Distortion in Nigerian Textbooks, submitted by the concerned citizens of Yoruba origin and supporters of truth through its national chairman, Otumba Abayomi Odunowo. The petition raises concerns over alleged historical inaccuracies in a history textbook authored by Tony and Ijoma Duru and published by the Tones Publishers. The publication is said to contain claims regarding the founding of Ile-Ife that have been described as misleading and potentially harmful to national unity. The ministry wishes to clarify that the said textbook was not authored or commissioned or approved by the Federal Ministry of Education. It is not among the instructional materials approved for use in public basic education institutions across the country, and the ministry is not in any way affiliated with the publication. The ministry appreciates the vigilance and concern of stakeholders regarding the potential of such contents to misinform learners and provoke ethnic tension. This is what you get from the Southeast. Guys, if you're from the Southeast, please do the next generation a favor. This is the stupid textbook by Tony and Ijoma, right? They even wrote for junior secondary schools. Apparently, Ijoma works with the Federal Government Ministry of Education, but nobody even approved that nonsense. Just go everywhere looking for trouble. When they slap you, now be crying like Igbiri. While these concerns are valid, it is important to note that the ministry is not responsible for materials that fall outside its regulatory framework. Instructional materials officially endorsed by the ministry are carefully curated to meet national educational standards. They are developed to support effective learning in public schools, promote literacy, and ensure inclusive, equitable access to quality education throughout Nigeria. Nevertheless, given the sensitivity of the matter and its implications for education, cultural identity, and national cohesion, the ministry will work closely with the Universal Basic Education Commission and other relevant agencies to thoroughly investigate the issue. All necessary steps will be taken to address the anomalies identified and to ensure a fair and timely resolution that respects historical truth and promotes unity. This morning, some of these guys were still arguing in the comment section of one of my videos. Just, don't you know where you're from? Like one day you're from Israel, the next thing you're from Egypt, then you're from Assyria, then you're from Ile-Ife, then you're someone from the moon. Like, make up your mind. And if you're Yoruba, let nobody gaslight you with, are we not one Nigeria? You guys should just tone it down. Let the liars tone it down. So if people feel bad about it, continue to feel bad, and you continue to feel bad. It's just important that you don't allow yourself, don't allow anybody just, say, doesn't really matter. It does. Land is in short supply, and God is not creating any new one. Okay, whatever we have right now is what we have. The best you can do is to reclaim land from ocean, like what President Tinubu did with the Atlantic. That's the best. You can't create anything, and that one was reclaiming. He didn't create it; it was there already. So don't let anybody come around and telling you, we own this place together. We were here before you. You have no history connected to Yoruba land. Not one. Nothing. So you have to keep saying this thing, even if some people feel, oh, why are you so harsh? Because the truth needs to be said, okay? And I hope people learn their lessons. All right, moving on. There was an airport incident at the Lagos airport yesterday between the senator representing, what's his constituency? His constituency is in Ado State, Senator Adams of Shomole. Yeah, so Air Peace came out with their own story yesterday and said it was disrupting, their services. But then he put out a statement. Senator representing Edo North, so that's his constituency, Edo North, and former governor of Edo State, Comrade Adams Oshomole, has given insight into what transpired on Wednesday morning at Murtala Mohammed Airport Terminal 1, Zulu Hall. Wanted them to wait for him for 2 hours. Well, that's what they said. Let's read what he has to say. He narrated how passengers, including himself, were prevented from boarding an Air Peace flight to Abuja despite having checked in online. Comrade Oshomole, who spoke to Vanguard after a video surfaced on social media showing him in a heated exchange with an airport official, said the commotion at the domestic terminal was sparked by Air Peace's decision to prevent passengers from boarding while allegedly reselling seats at inflated prices to others on the spot. His words, quote, "I booked Air Peace. They delayed the flight for over 5 hours. In the end, they announced a cancellation. I had to get another ticket. Yesterday, I booked a flight for 6:30 a.m., which is their first flight today. I booked and asked them to check me in online, which I did, along with 2 other Ghanaians who met me in Lagos. We checked in online just to avoid the last-minute issues I've had with them a couple of times. I got there at about 5 minutes past 6. They told me the counter was closed. I told them, no, I've already checked in. I showed them the evidence of my online check-in. Even before then, they had asked if I had checked in, and I told them yes." 1 second, guys. Let's go back into that. Thanks for staying tuned. So it says here, even before then, they had asked if I had checked in, and I told them yes, and that I had no luggage. They looked at it, but still said the gate had been closed. Meanwhile, I noticed they were still taking other people in. So I asked, how can you close boarding for a 6:30 flight at 6:05? What is the purpose of online checking then? If I had to go through another checking process, then what's the point of checking in online? While speaking to them, I saw many men and women who had been there even before me with similar experiences. Basically, they were selling tickets on the spot at higher prices. I'll give you an example. A lady bought her ticket for 146,000 naira online. She arrived at the airport at 5:55 a.m. for the 6:30 a.m. flight. After the gatemen had delayed her, they told her she was late and that the counter had closed for check-in. She said that was impossible as it wasn't even 6 a.m. They told her she would be put on the next flight. She protested, saying, Why? Put me on this flight. But they told her the flight was full and she would have to wait. Meanwhile, the airline was selling tickets on the spot for between 200,000 naira and 300,000 naira. To take advantage of the situation, they discouraged those who had bought tickets online at lower rates and sold to people willing to pay more. This thing is long ago. Shall not go look for a video like this. May go listen to Rambo, because this story too done to the long. I'll see if I can find it. Boy, this thing is long. We've started already, Abby. So let's just finish it. It's whatever is worth doing at all is worth doing well. So they were selling the tickets for between 200 and 300,000 naira. I asked the manager, what's this woman's crime? She has a baby that's no more than 6 months old. How can you refuse to board her when this aircraft is still on the ground and more people are buying tickets? You cannot continue like this. Tomorrow, everyone will blame the government. You have regulatory agencies and they are all compromising. You cannot board people buying tickets on the spot and deny those who booked days ago or checked in online. By the time the DSS and Air Force personnel came to find out what happened, they intervened and offered to put the woman on the next flight. The same offer they had made to me earlier. 109,100 tickets, meaning she would spend about 256,000 naira for a 1 hour flight to Abuja. There were many others in the same situation and everyone was shouting at the airport. I said to the manager, you must follow the rules. Many people were stranded except those who could afford another ticket. I followed the woman to the counter and told her to do whatever they asked. Those of us who were also prevented from flying gathered there, even when an officer heard me ask what happened. I told them this cannot be allowed. I checked in online and arrived on time. The aircraft had not taken off. I'm not supposed to check in twice. The rowdiness arose because many people were denied boarding while tickets were being sold on the spot to others. Agbejo Nikanda Agbaoshikani. So, a lot of us just say, oh, they said he did this, he did that. Maybe we should listen to the other side as well. So apparently that's the senator's side. FPs, they put out their own statement, but I think it's important that I don't know what's up with that airline. It's not good if everybody is always complaining about you. There's nothing. It's not cool. So maybe they need to fix something in their process or something, because the complaints are too many. How would you have to pay tickets all over to buy another ticket when you've already booked in before coming out? So they need to do something, to be honest. Like, it's getting too much. You can't be the only one people are complaining about like this. And we'll be tired anybody who turn this into a tribal thing as, oh, it's because you hate us. You have, because I already see that online. There's something wrong with you. You just have not told you at home. All right, so, but if there's anything I'm actually happy about, is about this nonsense book of Igbo and Yoruba. We are not related. And Federal Ministry of Education has also, gotten on this, so they can just help these people who, and by the way, what they're doing is going to affect their own children more than others, just that they're not thinking straight. I have the video from Adam Soshomon, but it's 24, it's more than 24 minutes. So wait, I don't talk now. You don't get number, it's happened. So we are good. So essentially that's his own side of the story, and I hope that they fix up in that space. I'd like to read something from the Senate President, Senator Akpabio, part of his speech, not everything, apparently. Thank you, Just Becoming. Thanks for doing a fantastic job in the comment section. I saw this publication on online about the published books for GS. Yes, it's been a while. Been talking about it for a while, and thankfully something is being done now. And the crazy part, let me tell you the crazy part. Somebody just came, I acted as if I didn't see him. Some of these people who say they went to school, they are fair, they will not be arguing with you about your own land and how they are connected, but they're not really supporting the clowns who are making up stories, but they are just saying, let us look at it like that. Both of you are dumb. Both groups, the clowns who are writing stupid story and the supposed middle ground people who don't know anything but just to, the way they play the game is, if my people vex, I will tell them, say, I support them. If this one vex, I will tell them, say, just look like this. But in no instance would I ever tell my people that they are wrong for claiming other people's spaces. You are as dumb as the other people. Because by now, people should even know that Nigerians, we understand the game now. So a person can just be funny from your region, you will say nothing. And then when people respond, you now say everything. Like I say, all right. There was something I wanted to play. I'll look for it and play it when I see it. But let me read to you what their own press statement was. That's Airpeace. This was yesterday, by the way. The senator's statement was today. I mean, the video, I saw it today, but the senator's statement came out a while back. So their own stuff was that unruly conduct by prominent politician at Lagos Airport, Airpeace reaffirmed zero tolerance for violence. So they said the politician said the prominent individual in question arrived at Murtala Mohammed Airport, Terminal 1 Zulu Hall at approximately 6:10 a.m. for a flight scheduled to depart Lagos for Abuja at 6:30 a.m. In line with our standard on-time departure policy, the boarding process had closed and the flight departed as scheduled. To minimize further inconvenience, you know what? Let's read everything they also wrote, so it's not going to be like say, Airpeace strongly condemns the unruly conduct of a prominent Nigerian politician who disrupted airport operations on the morning of Wednesday, June 11, 2012. The prominent individual in question arrived at Murtala Mohammed Airport, Terminal 1 Zulu Hall at approximately 6:10 a.m. for flight B47120 scheduled to depart Lagos for Abuja at 6:30 a.m. In line with our standard on-time departure policy, the boarding process had closed and the flight departed as scheduled. Upon being informed of the missed flight, the politician resorted to violence, physically assaulting our staff and forcefully barricading the terminal's entrance. He went as far as sealing the entry gate and manning the access point, effectively obstructing other passengers from gaining entry into the terminal. This unacceptable behavior caused significant disruption to ongoing operations and affected numerous travelers scheduled for various flights. To minimize further inconvenience, Airpeace swiftly activated an operational contingency plan to board affected passengers through an alternate terminal, ensuring the continuity of their travel plans. We are deeply saddened that such a high-profile figure displayed conduct so unbecoming and disruptive to fellow passengers and our personnel. And then, of course, like I said, I didn't finish that other one too, so I'm not going to finish this one too. But the point is, they also put out a statement. But here's the point. They need to put another statement to respond to what the senator actually said happened. Someone says here, it is quite ironic how Fly Airpeace is quick to enforce strict rules on passengers closing check-in counters 20 minutes before departure without any room for flexibility, and only trying to present yourselves as paragons of punctuality and discipline when it comes to passenger responsibilities. But the moment the delay is on your end, be it a 10-hour delay or an outright cancellation, all that emphasis on time and order suddenly vanishes. No explanations, no apologies, no compensation. Passengers are left stranded, inconvenienced, and treated with silence. I think people should just use other airlines. Maybe it will drive the message home. People should just use other airlines, so they get the message and then they become better. And once they get better, then everybody will be all right. All right, moving on. I found a video today I felt I should play. This is not about politics. This one is actually culture. There's a Yoruba girl in the East that just made me happy this morning with the things she said. So please take a listen.
Don't turn Igbo girl, sir. I'm from Osun State. I be Yoruba girl. I don't turn Igbo girl sap.
How long have you been in Igbo land?
Hey, wait, that one don't tell now. Ha.
You sabi speak any Igbo language?
I feel speak Igbo now.
Speak Igbo, make I hear.
Kekime. Kevi me ba. Kafage. Kevi go traku iye. Ni makaze kwa.
Boy, that's the first thing that Igbo girl.
Na so na God. Na wetin we pay for.
Would you like to marry Igbo man or Yoruba man?
Chibo. You say it. Igbo man ke. No one marry Igbo man. They too like money pass themselves. They like money pass themselves. They do business pass tomorrow. And they know they get time for a woman. Anything money. Now in they pursue. No, they not gonna get time for me. I don't want to marry Igbo person.
You don't date Igbo guy before?
Hey, that's what I want them do. Person will never even get time for yourself. Now you go get time for me. Oh, I don't do.
If you see Igbo man we get money like Obi Kubana, you go marry.
Hey, if you get time, if they give me attention the way I want, it's up now. Go put body now. You mind?
You prefer attention than money?
Now so now. Person will not give me attention. When they listen to me, can't they give me what I want is the money do. After they cry with that now, na punishment are they, no be love.
If Igbo guy will get money, get everything where you want in a man, but just that he's a busy guy, no go gree marry.
I no go gree marry am, I no want.
Igbo guy will get money, where they too give you attention, but if they give you everything you want, and Yoruba guy will not get money, but if they give you 100% attention, which way you go choose?
I go choose Yoruba guy where they give me 100% attention. We go struggle and together we go get the money. No be the money, we go chase am.
You don't want money?
I no want money. Money is not everything now. Yeah, so
I don't see woman where say money not be everything.
Money not be everything.
All right, I thought that was really nice because of I think the way she communicated her desire. Just thought I should play that. So that was good. By the way, I'm looking at the video of what actually happened at the airport. And it doesn't look like Airpeace was right in their statements. They're having the same conversation. And this, by the way, also buttresses the things that he said. Anyway, let's bring people up. We'll speak a bit. This is 2:40. Excuse me. We'll talk about stuff we discussed. So, okay, so a few more things. Umbo. Okay, there's a news item I just remembered. Federal government said something about going paperless. Let me see if I can quickly find that. I'll just read that and then we'll move on. All right. The federal government announced that Nigeria's civil service will be fully paperless by December 31, 2025. Head of Service Dr. Didi Walsin-Jack revealed this during the 2025 African Public Service Day. The transition aligns with the Civil Service Strategy Plan 2021 to 2025 and is already underway across several ministries. All right, I just wanted to make sure I read that before moving on. So if you want to be part of the conversation, please send your request. Let's bring everybody up and then we'll talk for a bit before we get into the topic of today. It's Democracy Day. It's a beautiful day in Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. God bless Nigerians. Yes, a lot of people died. That's Madam Kudirat Abiola. That's the person you're trying to refer to in the comment section. Yes, and we're glad that she left that legacy. All right, so we have Obalufon. Thomas, please mute. All right, so let's have Obalufon, and then we'll go to Tom Thomas. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Chief.
Yes, I just want to talk about something I saw online about Tunde Munuga and him visiting the president. And this set of people, they were like shouting and applauding.
Oh, that's not part of today's news, so we already talked about that 2 days ago.
Yeah. Like somebody wrote something yesterday and the whole X space blew up again. That was why I came to
Okay.
that. And I want to talk about being born in the 70s. We also were like we that were there during the 1993 because I always go to Ikeja under bridge to meet the Falanos, Ganifawa, I mean. That was why I mentioned Kukuri and all of them. That was where we converged. Ikeja was
Oh,
hot
okay.
during the, yeah, so Obekor and some Putin and then. So if somebody now come and tell me, I see all these young kids saying they want military rule, and I be like, Shame on Quota and Billy, Musha. These Sergeant Rogers and Mustafa were having 3 days on all Nigerians. And you see, this civil war thing that we're talking about, during that 1993, we met an Igbo elderly man, and we said, oh, Nigeria should just split. The man was not part of the conversation. He heard us talking about war, and he came back and he said, see, I be Biafra soldier. He said, at a point, him and his wife, they all moved back to the east. He joined the soldier and he decided to go on a wall with his wife. He said they were running in the bush. They had a baby. Gbàtọ́mọ yẹn bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí sunkún tó ní fever, òun gba ọmọ lẹ́yìn ìyàwó òun pẹ̀lú ọjà, òun dẹ̀ la ọmọ yẹn mọ́gi. Pé because the Biafran soldiers were picking them up, wọ́n ń pa àwọn tó abscond. Wípé àwọn dẹ̀ fẹ́ lọ sábà Nigerian soldiers kọ́ lè save àwọn, ó ní please. When it is war, you don't know what you are asking for. Don't ever ask. This may be happening. Only nǹkan tó ń regret láyé òun ni pé òun padà sílé. Ó ní ọwọ́ ara òun fúnra ara òun lòun fi gba ọmọ òun lọ́wọ́ ìyàwó òun ní kó máa lọ pẹ̀lú ọjà tó fi pọ̀n. Because ọmọ yẹn ń ké. Ó lóun dẹ̀ fífi òun dẹ̀ lámọ́gi. Òun dẹ̀ jù mọ́lẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ pé ó bẹ́ tà fún òun mọ̀ pé òun fúnra òun lòun fọwọ́ òun pa ju kí nǹkan jẹ lọ. So we should pray what we are asking for. The kind of things that happen that people don't know and they pray for. Ọlọ́run á kó wa yọ o. Àwọn Yorùbá máa ní ogun àdìbí àbí ogun Ògúnmọ́lá. Èèyàn tó bá débẹ̀ ló lè ròyìn o. Ẹni tó bá rógun Kíríjì ló máa sọ pé kíní o. Ọlọ́run á kó wa yọ o. Ẹ ṣé gan.
Wow. Àmì. Wow. That's something. What did she back on, sir? Wow. All these people that are flexing muscles online. And I get what. Wow. We didn't hear clearly. Over the phone. Do you mind maybe summarize that last part? Please say it. I think it's better if you can. If you have the opportunity, if you have the time. You got to share the Igbo man.
So I think I have to go. But the bottom line is this. He said, inú ogun, àwọn decide àti abscond kúrò ní Biafra, àwọn sábọ̀ lọ́nà ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Nípa àwọn Biafra soldiers, wọ́n dẹ̀ mú àwọn tó ń sá wọn ń pa wọn. Òun ti kóyàwó àtàwọn ọmọ àwọn náà mọ̀ kókó. Nígbà táwọn ń sá mọ̀ kókó yẹn wá ń ké. Òun gbà lẹ́yìn ìyàwó òun ní kí ìyàwó òun máa lọ. Òun dẹ̀ fi aṣọ tó fi pọn ọmọ yẹn báyìí, òun dẹ̀ la ọmọ yẹn mọ́gi. Pé fúnra òun lòun pa pé kàkà kí wọ́n mú gbogbo àwọn kọ́ pa wọn. Ó dáa kóun pa kékeré yìí nìkan. Kóun làmọ́gi òun pa síbẹ̀ òun dẹ̀ lọ báyàwó àtàwọn ọmọ òun. Pé nǹkan tó ń regret láyé òun ni pé òun padà sílé lọ join ogun Ojukwu.
Thank you. Thank you. There are many terrible stuff. Someone said we should bring them here. No, not here. What they're going to tell you is it's some of those things you can't hear it over. You can't hear too many of them. There's a reason I don't read certain books here. Even you just become like wasted. But for a man to do that to his own child, that's survival. Those people should be very careful with all this. Let's fight, let's destroy everywhere, let's fight. May we not have wars in Nigeria. May we not have wars. It is well. It is well. I also like what that man said. He said he was running to Nigeria to get away. He was running to the Nigerian side to get away from the old stuff. The people that would have dealt with him would have been Biafra, because they were deserters. I'm going to get into some of the things that they did to, not even just to deserters, to people generally, let alone deserters. Crazy stuff. But all this chest beating of let's go there. So everybody will be all right. Once the next speaker is on, I'm going to play something from Babatunde Fashola, his speech this morning. It's long, but I'll see where we just play a little bit of it, and then we'll move on. So let's have Lion. Good afternoon, Lion.
Good afternoon. Ẹkáàsán ẹ kú ọjọ́ mẹ́ta o, ẹ kú iṣẹ́ o.
Ọjọ́ kan pẹ̀lú ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́.
Wọ́n máa fún wa ní ìrè ìjẹ́ o. Èmi kàn fẹ́ jẹ́ ká mọ̀ pé ní Nàìjíríà ó yẹ ká gẹ̀ẹ́tì bí a ṣe ń ṣe okòwò pẹ̀lú ọmọlúwàbí, business with integrity and with honesty. It's very important.
Suro, we're talking based on the news, the things we discussed today.
That's where I'm going.
Okay.
That's where I'm going. Torí nígbà tí mo mọ̀ wípé Adam Oshiomhole náà máa ní fault, but I'm a victim on my own, and I will say mi ò ní so much nípa ẹ̀, but mo kàn fẹ́ fi lélẹ̀ pé ó dáa kó jẹ́ pé let Nigerians know how to do business, because tí èmi bá nírú experience kan lénìí, another person nírú experience kan lọ́la, another náà tún ní lọ́túnla, tó bá yá tí gbogbo èèyàn bá wá láwọn ò ṣe business pẹ̀lú ẹ̀ wá máa ní wọ́n wà tribalistic àbí wọ́n wà against yín. I lost a big opportunity because of them. A wà lórí kí wọ́n dẹ̀ ń sọ fún wa pé ẹ máa ra lọ, and they make the thing so slow. Time ò tí ì lọ tán, wọ́n tún wá rí pé àwọn èèyàn tó wà ní gate ò tí ì wọlé lọ. What did they do? They said, everybody, we will return your money back to you. Everybody go back. The flight is already full. Wọ́n torí pé àwọn kan wà, àwọn tí ò bá lẹ́nu, tí ò léèyàn, tí ò lè sọ̀rọ̀ púpọ̀, tí ò mọ̀ nǹkan, ajajaja, plane yẹn full. And we could not even make our own. And upon that, they did not refund the money back to the people. Because I'm a mirror through third party anyway. And most of the people tí wọ́n cancel flight wọn náà, they were through third party. So but èmi kàn fẹ́ ká jẹ́ mọ̀ kò ń ṣe pé èèyàn kan fẹ́ bà business èèyàn kan jẹ́, but ó yẹ ká máa ṣe business pẹ̀lú integrity so that kò ní sí complain on every quarter, and àwọn èèyàn máa dẹ́yẹ sí business èèyàn. We should all learn that, and they should learn that also. Mi ò fẹ́ mọ nǹkan tí ó ṣẹlẹ̀ sí Oshiomhole. He may be telling the truth, he may be selling another thing. But me, as per my own experience and some other people that I've also heard from, it has becoming something that is more related to them. That's just what I want to say.
Thank you very much for that, Lion. I really appreciate that. We're going to get Collins, and then we'll go listen to...
Thank you, Prof. Happy Democracy Day. You see, I wanted to make comment about the earpiece thing, and I'm tired of these guys. Literally, I take flight everywhere. I have a flight that was going to Abuja to Ilorin, then to Lagos. All of these airline tickets are earpiece. So I was supposed to have a flight, sharing my own experience basically. So I was supposed to go to Ilorin that day. And do you know what earpiece do? After like 5 hours at the airport, they cancel my flight. And what I did was that I went to the other counter of Overland. When I got there, I was like, oh, do you have flight going to Ilorin? They said, oh, they have. Like, when is it leaving? They said, today. The only reason why earpiece canceled my flight was because they said the weather is bad for landing. So I asked them, so you guys have a flight going to Ilorin? They said, yes, the Overland. I was like, oh, how much is it? They said they only have for the business class, which is around 300 plus. I paid for it. and I wanted to know if they have a weather problem for you to land. So I booked the ticket. I went back to the airpiece, and I said, but the overland is going to Ilorin, the same place that you cannot land. Because I'm surprised that why you cannot land, the other airline can land. You understand? So I boarded the flight. Everybody that was there, we were like some FIRS guy, some top guy, government officials were there. We were part of those people that left the airpiece that didn't move that day. We moved into the overland. We paid for it. We were about 12. All of us were complaining at the same time, and everybody we met in overland was saying the same thing about the airpiece. And their attitude of, trying to deplane some certain people just to put some people into the plane. So what the senator is talking about is true. What they are doing is wrong. They will just decide, some people will just say they wanted to book their this thing, and these people will just cancel for no reasons. We landed in Ilorin that day, the same place that the airpiece claimed that there is no, the weather is bad to land. I landed in the same place. So I was just wondering that what is really going on with these people. You understand? They just use excuses and lied to every one of us and told us that the weather is bad, and that's the reason why they are no more going to that certain place again. Coming to my tickets to Lagos, the same thing happened. This guy literally canceled my flight going to Lagos the next day, citing stupid reasons. So I've had like about a lot of experience. Sometimes they do, and sometimes, and I think government should look into it. And I think the senator is not lying. The senator is telling the truth. And I think another thing that they are trying to do here, maybe they connived with the other airline, you understand, to cause an emergency where some people will be buying tickets at a very expensive rate. You understand? Some who are desperate will just go buy from the next counter, because because when I wanted to go to Lagos that same day too, I had to go to the other airline, which is also flying to the same place I'm going. And I have to pay another extra like 400,000 to do that, which is really crazy. Yeah, so I just wanted to make comment. The senator is right, but about what he's trying to say about the airpiece thing, I think they need to look into that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that fantastic submission. Oh boy. Sorry. Just so I think one of the lights went out. 1 second. All right. Thank you very much for that submission. Let's take a listen to a couple more, a few videos before we get into the conversation for today. So this is from Reno Mokri. He had an interview on Channels, and he said this. You hear what he says. Just take a listen.
President has done, and the fact that they could have been done in a more organized way. Some similar policy decision as enshrined in their different manifestos, but it was badly handled by the APC and the Bola Tinubu government. Do you see all the view that the president and his party, APC, are better, or the PWB is not better than them in terms of how they envision these ideas?
I still hold that view that the president is by far better than anything Peter Obi would have done. And we can go into specifics. What Peter Obi was talking about the president doing that the president mishandled was false subsidy. And Peter Obi was being clever by half, because after he gave that interview, I brought out another interview that he had given. Incidentally, that interview was on Channels, where he told the public that if he was elected as president, false subsidy would go immediately. He said it, immediately. So what did the president do? The president took out fuel subsidy on day one, immediately. So how would he have done it differently from the president? He was being dishonest, because there is nothing that the president would have done that he would have done because he said he was going to remove fuel subsidy immediately, which is what the president did. And if you look at the World Bank, if you look at the IMF, these guys have said that what the president did was right. It brought some pains, but it was a necessary decision. But let's assume that these Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank and the IMF, maybe they are new colonialists. So let's take them aside. What about Moody's? What about Fitch? In the whole world, Fitch is the #1 ratings agency. And Fitch has upgraded Nigeria to a stable B positive because they said the reforms by the Bola Tinubu administration are working, especially the removal of fuel subsidy and the flotation of the Naira. After they did that, that was last year, I think that was on December 17th. And then, soon afterwards, Moody's followed, and they upgraded Nigeria. Now, you can see that the reforms, especially the removal of fuel subsidy and the flotation of Naira, are working. This gentleman left the debt profile for Nigeria for $108 billion. Right now, as I speak to you, our debt is now $94 billion. So $14 billion are reduction in our debt. And it's not just with the federal government. All states, almost all states, sorry, not all states, almost all states have reduced their debt load. Why? Because the federal allocation to the states has increased, in some cases doubled, in some cases tripled. So because of the removal of fuel subsidy, we are seeing tangible actions. So I completely disagree with Peter Obi. Peter Obi, as governor of Anambra, is the only governor in the last 26 years that increased poverty in Anambra. The two governors before him did not increase poverty. The governor after him did not increase poverty. But Peter Obi increased poverty. So he does not have the moral authority to talk. And then he said something about, criminality. Look, of all the major presidential candidates in the last election, only one person was indicted by the International Consortium of Investigative Journalism for fraud. And that was Peter Obi in the Pandora Papers, where he was accused of illegally taking money out of Nigeria and putting it in foreign accounts. Recently, in that same interview, he said that he left $150 million and 36 billion naira into the Anambra State coffers. That is actually a lie. This is a man that left 127 billion naira debt. Please, you can fact check me. And if you quantify the debt with the money that he left behind, the debt was more than what he left behind. And even what he left behind, some of it he claimed was in assets. For example, he said that he had invested some of the Anambra State government money in Interfax breweries. And if you go back and look, he invested, I think it was about $12 million. Today, that $12 million investment at Interfax breweries is now worth $5 million. And even the worst part of it is that the money that he said he kept them in his in a bank in which he has substantial shares, about 10% shares. So that means that money was earning interest for that bank, so that money was going into his own pocket. So Peter Obi does not have the moral right to criticize President Bola Tinubu.
So you talk.
So I see you in the comment section, Tom, saying you said something 2 years ago. It's true. I was laughing about that, what you just said right now. I was thinking about it yesterday, like, man, this guy was all over this guy a couple of years ago. The truth is, what he's saying is a lie. So if what he's saying is a lie and it's based on just hate for the man, then I will not say, oh, you are yesterday. But if what he's saying is true, then it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's what politics is, right? 301. Okay. A few more things, then we'll move on.
It's coming.
This is from Afenifere. I thought I knew I had to play this. This is from Afenifere, the real one, not the confused ones. Okay, so take a listen, please.
2027 is coming. We say we are Yoruba. Who is a Yoruba person? That's who we are supporting. Our catchment area is Yoruba land. Baba Olowo said, be a proper Yoruba man first before you can claim to be a good Nigerian. So, the last election, we clear everywhere. You know our ideology, you know our history. This Asiwaju's government, whether we like it or not, we are going to be there for as long as he's there. It's us now. You see, the other reason why we supported Ashwaja, he knows everything about what Afenifere wants. About restructuring, about looking after the poor people, about devolving powers to the states or region, or state police and so on and so forth, So he knows everything. If he played politics to grab power, yes, he did it perfectly. He's there now. And he's implementing whatever we want. Even though Things are very, very hard. It's going to be hard because the Nigeria has been reduced to rubble before, but now we are just laying the foundation. It's a foundation now. A lot of us whose house has collapsed, we are in the shed. That's what happened now. So, but after the finishing of the house, we move from the shed to be in the palace. This is what is happening. Nobody is saying that things are rosy. Things are not going to be rosy because Nigeria has been reduced down by the previous government. You know, so yes, some people will say yes. They don't. What they want is 2027. But I can assure you, 2027. Landslide. Afenifere will win for Asiwaju landslide. I can assure you that. We know what we want. We know what he's doing. Things are very hard, but foundation, we know the foundation. A lot of people at the lower level will not understand what is happening. All what they want is, I want to eat. I want to eat. I want to eat. Yes, we're going to give them food. But let us lay a very good foundation for Nigeria. This government is just about two years plus. For goodness sake, it's going to take about 8 years for us to say yes. We are out of the woods. It has happened all over the world.
People will say that the last 8 years before this government,
yes,
you know, it's of the same party, and that it was Asiwaju that brought General Muhammadu Buhari.
It was Asiwaju that brought General Muhammadu.
The point is that that's the real Afenifere speaking. You've been asking, when will the real Afenifere speak up? That's the real Afenifere, not the confused ones who are shouting, you know, Afenifere belongs to everybody. No, Afenifere is a Yoruba socio-cultural group. And Afenifere's stance is to support President Tinubu. And he gave a lot of reasons, but the ones that resonate with me, not everything he said resonates with me. The one that resonates with me is the fact that as far as policy is concerned, he understands exactly what the stance of Yoruba is as far as structural issues in Nigeria are concerned. That is enough for me. I mean, whether it's Yoruba or not is even secondary. The point is that what we want as a people, he gets it, right? And is working that direction. You know, let me tell you what Afenifere should do. It's either you support Tinubu or you support nobody. But all this pandering towards Obi is just nonsense. Like, based on what? What does he have as far as antecedents are concerned that will make me say take Obi over another person? Which is why I don't understand. That's why I say they are confused. This other Afenifere, they're shouting, Afenifere started in the 1900. It's nonsense. The Afenifere that we have right now started in the 1990s, and it's the Yoruba socio-cultural group, and it doesn't care about Peter Obi. And I thought I should play that because that's an elderly person saying exactly what needs to be said right now. Right? So that's Afenifere's stance, and whoever doesn't like it, they should do the needful, whatever the needful is to them. So I was going to play something by Raji Fashola shortly, but I was actually I was tripped when I saw, I don't know if when I saw, I said it earlier, just to say it again, Raji Fashola is in Covenant Nation right now speaking at the platform. See what the venue looked like this morning. I'm going to show you that I'm going to play Fashola's speech, just a bit of it, and then we'll get into today's session. So this is what the venue looked like today. All right, and that's MKO, and those who don't like it should like it. So yeah. All right, so that's that. So let's take a listen to the former governor of Lagos State, Babatunde Raji Fashola.
On the road, you collect illegal tolls, it affects cost of living. That's one dot. I will move very quickly because time is not our friend. Lawlessness and lawfulness, aspects of the rule of law, they have cost consequences. If you do a Google search today about the cost of producing oil, crude oil, you will see that it varies in some parts from as low as $12 per barrel and goes as high as $40 per barrel. Now, what does that mean? Some of the impacts of high costs is vandalism of oil assets, pipelines. So in that environment where the rule of law is not prevalent, production costs will certainly go up. Now, a barrel of crude oil probably trading at $60 per barrel today. So if you are in pipeline vandalism era, net profit will be just $20. But if you are in an arena where there is no pipeline vandalism, there are no challenges, production cost is $12. Net profit is $48. You see the difference. Again, these are real life issues, and they're issues that concern you and they concern me. But beyond net profit, add that to total amount producible. Because once the pipelines are damaged, not only does it increase the cost of production, it reduces how much you can push out. So volume is affected. Another part of that spectrum is that where there is the absence of law and order, it repels human capital. People seek safety. Africa has told us to bring home some of our best minds and best brains. But they will come without any invitation. The more compliant we are with our own rules, the more safe they feel, the more predictable our environment becomes. Road traffic behavior. You say as a barometer for gauging the preeminence of rule of law is yet another area to think about. So, how many big men are here who are operating unregistered vehicles? It sends a very bad message. It is a breach of the road traffic law. Every vehicle must be registered. Every vehicle, irrespective of who is driving it. It just sends a message of predictability that this is a lawful environment. I see a lot of big men who drive unregistered vehicles. They should be arrested and prosecuted. Then,
this is quite long, so I'm going to stop here for now, just to give an idea of what's happening at the conference. Because, of course, we have very fantastic speakers there. It's good to be here. And so we're going to get into the conversation for today. Please power tap, share the live. Let's get into today's session. All right. So let's do some house cleaning. If you're on YouTube, please share the live. If you're on Facebook as well, you can share on Twitter. I'm going to do that now, actually. Why not share again the Twitter now? You can share on Twitter. So I have some responses on YouTube, by the way. Please don't engage in that tweet adventure successful. Thank you, Olateju Bokno. There is a place to seek redress for such thing, but a lot of us don't do that. Michael Wifo, thank you for that comment. I think it's about the thing about airlines. Mr. Reno can even back for the devil if the devil was praising Obi. Did Obi give him coins? Like, you guys, oh God. When he was saying, that's the thing. Number one, don't be happy about a person because they are saying good things about you, because they might turn on you tomorrow. But you cannot then just turn around and say, oh, the reason they are talking like this is because they collected money. So when they were talking all don't think people really understand how this thing sounds, like what it means to you and to the people that you look up to. But everybody will be okay. So yeah, I'm trying to gather my thoughts now so we can, dive fully. But before we go, let me say something about June 12 now. It's June 12. I didn't want to say that earlier, but I think it's important because it's June 12. A lot of people that are being recognized, some people have issues with it. We had a session here when this whole thing about unfair was all over the place about what role certain people played in the aftermath, or even before the election of June 12, and also the aftermath, what happened after the election. And let's just say it this way: there's history. It doesn't care about your feeling, and doesn't care about quota system. What a lot of people are looking for from Nigeria is what will make them also feel among, even if they don't qualify for it. So to be clear, when it comes to the fight for democracy, there are certain people, certain regions that just be thankful that you are in this country. Don't go around saying that if this person gets it, I should get the same thing. There's no reason for you to have it because you are not qualified for it. And that's the problem with quota system, which you hate according to you. So if you hate it so much, just stay with the truth and what happened. We don't have to do if they get it, I must also get it. I'm trying not to get deep into June 12, but I hope we got the. Let's start up and let's share. So give YouTube. I'll share it on my WhatsApp status. Share it on Twitter. 1 second. It's gonna be a fun time today. I gotta feel it. All right. J Thunderstorm. Who is that? Kilo Faro, go kill somebody. Sorry, let me see what's happening in the comment section. Then we'll get into this. I finally agree that we don't need some tribes in this union. And you book all this now. I already told you need to engage this conversation. This enigma, I'm very sure the conversation will be great. Which enigma? It's clear Nigeria is on the road to nowhere. All these things have been happening in the comment section. Wonderful. Oh yes, Fashola. Oh yeah, that's true. That's a bright mind to speak to. Let's get into it. The last book we read yesterday was Ojuku's Rebellion and World Opinion. Let me think. Somebody sent me something yesterday. For some reason, I can't find. Sorry, let me see if I can find. I need to mention the person. Like, I looked for a book. I looked everywhere, and somebody sent it to me yesterday. Well, he told me about it. I went searching. I couldn't find it, and then he sent it. Can't even see your name here. Did you delete our conversation after sending me the link? Maybe the person deleted the conversation. No? Oh, they didn't. I've seen it. I started reading the book as soon as I saw it. We're going to have a conversation about it soon. It's essentially, it details the events, the things that happened before the execution of Victor Banjo. And also the execution itself. It's a fantastic book. But I'll read it very well before we have a session on it, so that way we'll have, I'll be speaking from an informed position. All right. So thank you very much for being here. It's wonderful to have everybody here. Let's get into the books now. Happy Democracy Day. We've done all of those things, those fantastic things. Now, let's go to our books. yesterday we read some books, and the last one we read was Ojuku's Rebellion and World Opinion by Neil Graham Douglas. Jailings, I believe you will have a lot of answers and hope. Oh yes. Oh yes. Go with Olangbo Adebe. All right, let's get into this. We talked about some of the events that happened in the Abonema and Degema regions or areas of Rivers State. And I'm going to start. I just want to know if I want to be sure we have enough people here who heard the reading yesterday when we're talking about what happened at Degema and at Bonema. If we have up to 5 to 10 answers, then we'll just move on. If we don't, we'll have to repeat some of those things. The reason I repeat, let me tell you this, the reason I repeat these things is not because I don't think that people understand, is that I learned something many years ago from my mentor, my role model. He says that repetition is a law. This was 2002. I can't forget. It says repetition is a law of long and lasting memory. Like you have to repeat it. You know, that way it sticks. So that's the reason. Because sometimes also we may not get it the first time, and then we have to, say it again. So just want to check in the comment section on YouTube, on TikTok. If you were here yesterday and you got all the things we said about the Gema and what Neil Graham Douglas said about Abonema, let me just see in the comment section. If I see up to 10 people, then we'll just move on. If not, we'll just repeat some of those things. So let's do that in the next few seconds, please. Are we good? One jumped into the river and he was fired. He was fired and he was killed. I can always jump the river and he was fired. To be fired is that, for yourself, we're not here though, okay. Vodi's copy, writer of the book, Nabo, that's Nabo, Graham Douglas. Was the Attorney General. How about the form? Make you polish him. Okay. I could polish, Okay, let's just go back into this. How did we get here? We're discussing the invasion, right? Biafran invasion into the Midwest. We talked about that 2 days ago. But apart from the fact that the NABO, Vodi, NABO, apart from the fact that they invaded the Midwest, they also did the same thing in the minority areas of the South, of the East at the time, which of course is what we now call South-South, right? And we started with the book by Neil Graham Douglas. We're going to move from there to some other materials in the course of this conversation. So from here, we'll go to Sunset in Biafra, and then we'll read what happened in Akwa Ibom. So that's in Enaro's speech. Now, I need to quickly address something. Someone was on YouTube today saying, oh, what you're saying is one-sided. And I said it's not. So whenever I think it's important to mention the two, I will. But for the most part, I don't plan to, and I'll tell you why. There's a narrative that has been in the public space for about 55 years in Nigeria. And it's a narrative of this group was destroyed, they were harmless, they did nothing, you guys are the big for nothing, you just destroyed it. Nigeria was bad, Nigeria is bad, Nigeria just did all of these things. And a lot of us believe it. I am not here to reiterate that. I'm not here to make people believe that all over again, because I know it's not true. Whatever was said to have happened, in most cases did happen. Terrible things happen in the East. Nigerian forces, for instance, especially, and by the way, the worst thing did not even happen in the East, actually, it happened in Asaba. But even then, a lot of, collateral damage in the Southeast, people died, of course, unfortunate event, unfortunate incident, unfortunate scenario. But talking about the other side does not mean that we are saying this side or what happened here did not happen. And I think that's the problem. The problem is that people are used to hearing that single story, that when you now talk about the other side, it's as if you are against them. So I'm not against you. I'm just trying to show the side that nobody else has seen. And if you're a human being with conscience, you should also understand that those people also have a story to tell and we should listen to them. And that's where we can all grow together. Having said that, We're going to go to the book by Graham Douglas now. And then he says, of course, he talked about how he resigned. You don't have to go through everything. If you want to get some of the details, you find it in the Telegram channel, Redomi Global. Let me just put it out there now so that we're not going to be this. If you want to join the Telegram channel on YouTube, that's it. Let me pin it. And then here on TikTok, 323. Okay. That's what we can do in the next 2.5 to 3 hours. All right. So why do we want to listen to this? Because the person who wrote this book was Attorney General of the Eastern Region and of the Eastern government, and he worked with Ojuku directly. We've already talked about a lot of things that he said, why they shouldn't do certain things, and his advice, you know, and how Ojuku did not necessarily listen to him. But we're going to go through some things now, and then from here we'll go to the book by Lecha Madi. I didn't get up to 10 people in the comment section, so we're going to read some of those things again, and then we'll move on from there. So please share the live. Let's get more people to see what we're doing so that they can all learn. We can all learn history together. So this book again is called Ojuku's Rebellion and World Opinion. I sent this book to a friend who said I hated Igbos. I sent it to her months ago. She has not said a word since then, and I hope at some point maybe she read the book. When you read this book, amongst of course other books, you'll understand the fact that the Igbos had no business suffering like they did, and it's such a sad thing that happened. So back to this. Graham Douglas, Ojuku's Rebellion and World Opinion. It has been nearly 2 years since my resignation. This, by the way, is this book was published in 1968 or 69. 1 second, let me just check to be sure. I think it's 69. Oh, I would have said 68. I think I found that online. 68. But some of the things he described happened in 67. So that means that maybe maybe it was revised. Maybe the first one was in 68 and then another one came out much later. But let's continue. It says here, it has been nearly 2 years since my resignation. In the intervening period, we have witnessed the bold step consisting in the announcement of the birth of the Republic of Biafra, and we have all been plagued by the horrors of an avoidable civil war, in the throes of which we still are. Guys, give me 1 second. Okay, I'm good. Take that again, please. It has been nearly 2 years since my resignation. Welcome, Mr. Bolton. Ẹkáàbọ. In the intervening period, we have witnessed a bold step consisting in the announcement of the birth of the Republic of Biafra, and we have all been plagued by the horrors of an avoidable civil war, in the throes of which we still are. How it will end, I cannot say, but if I were to base any prediction on the present trend, I would boldly claim that I have been vindicated both as to the futility of the gamble and as to my decision not to be party to such ignominy. Let me pause and quickly say something. In the book that someone sent to me yesterday, I read the book and I saw what someone had said here some days ago. I did some research on it, and apparently, when we discuss that book, I'm going to tell you, apparently, one of the people that Ojuku studied, you know what, me don't be like I won't talk, may I read them for you? Don't worry, we're coming back to this. The reason I want to read it now is because of what I just read now. The man said, an avoidable war. So listen to this. Let me get you titled. The book is titled The Trial of Biafra's Leaders. We have a session on it when the time comes, how Jitobanjo, Fajuna, and the rest of them, how they were tried and how they were executed by Ojuku. As a great student of Adolf Hitler, Ojuku, in taking the decision to execute the 4 Nigerians, may have been confirmed in its resolve by Hitler's advice on total war. An advice to the effect that, quote, if you wish to wage a war successfully or to lead a people successfully through a difficult period of its history, you must have no doubts whatever at one point. You must have no doubts whatever on one point, namely, any individual who in such times tries either actively or passively to exclude himself from the activities of the community must be destroyed. Please, if you're a moderator here, there's somebody just disturbing us in the comment section. Help me mute them for a few seconds. Probably that will reset their brains, and then you can help us. They can go back to talking. Thank you very much. Is there any moderator here? Because this person, I think, really needs help. I've not seen this kind of thing in my life, where a people would defend the person will destroy you. And they talk about Ojuku and what's happen with Biafra. You say they attack Igbo. Are you dumb? Let's get back to this. How it will end, I cannot say. But if I were to base any prediction on the present trend, I would boldly claim that I have been vindicated both as to the futility of the gamble and as to my decision not to be party to such ignominy. After my resignation, I was forced into virtual retirement in my hometown, and from there I watched with apprehension the fast deteriorating national situation, and in course of time the outbreak of hostilities. And I lived there in those dark days of tyranny, of which all the inhabitants of the minority areas of the former eastern Nigeria have had ample cause to complain. As much as possible detached from involvement in the raging conflict, for having already been a boogeyman of the Igbos and the object of a vilification and hate, I thought that passiveness was my best policy, but I would not be left alone. On February 24, 1968, pursuant to an address delivered by a civil commissioner in the government of Biafra to the people of Port Harcourt, and to a plan for the systematic extermination of all the notable peoples of rivers and southeastern states origin in and around Port Harcourt, drawn up by some well-known Igbo professionals and businessmen as a first step, the buildings and other properties of some 12 rivers people and one southeasterner in Port Harcourt were destroyed. Again, like I like to say, when you see the word southeasterner here, he's not talking about southeast region. He's talking about southeast as a state. Southeast state is different from southeast region. Southeast state is present-day Cross River and Akwa Ibom state. So when the states were created on May 27, 1967, the north was broken into six. The west, which had been broken into two in 1963, was further broken into two again in 1967. So we now had Western State, Lagos State, and Midwest. And then the east was also broken into three. We had East Central State, which is present-day Southeastern region. We had Southeastern State, which is present-day Akwa Ibom and Cross River State. And then we have River State, which is present-day River State and parts of Bayelsa State. So when it says here that they went to destroy buildings belong to one Southeasterner, he's not talking about an Igbo man. He's talking about someone from Efik, Ibibio, that side. All right. Having said that, let's go back to this. So he says, the buildings and other properties of some 12 rivers people and one southeasterner in Port Harcourt were destroyed by mobs of Igbo demonstrators, in most cases by burning. As might be expected, mine led the rest. Two of my buildings, one of them my residence in the city, with all their contents, including my entire law library, office equipment, a variety of documents, furniture, a motor car, and various items of personal chattels were destroyed. The reason, every riversman or southeasterner was ipso facto a saboteur, and yet we were all supposed to be fellow Biafrans. Then on the following day, I was arrested at Abonema and taken to Port Harcourt, to which in the first instance my movements were thereupon restricted. Then subsequently, I was detained in what had become an army camp. To be a prisoner, if only for a day, is not a pleasant experience. Excuse me. And in circumstances in which one's crime is that one belongs to some ethnic group rather than to another, in which for the time being power is vested, is exasperating. But in this case, I was not unduly agitated by my discomfiture because out of the certain adversity arose for me the opportunity of meeting Ojuku once again, of saying to him something just short of taunting him with the fact that my prediction as to the probable outcome of his rebellion had been justified, of confronting him with the atrocities being perpetrated daily upon defenseless rivers men and women everywhere by soldiers and other agents, and of learning at first hand his current strategy for sustaining the rebellion now that the original sources of hope and victory had betrayed him. What does all of that mean? Essentially what he's saying is that he was, after they've burned down his buildings, they arrested him and detained him in an army camp, and he was looking forward to meeting Ojuku. So we talked about this yesterday, that eventually had a meeting with Ojuku on April 3rd, 1968 at Umuahia. And when they got there, His Excellency, that's Ojuku, His Excellency appeared to welcome the opportunity of seeing me again, and after acknowledging the obvious fact that the Rivers people were not behind his rebellion, that is in these words, quote, "I know that I have not been accepted by the Rivers people. I know that I have not made my influence really felt in that area. This is important," end quote. This is important because whenever people say things, especially if you're from the South, let me put it this way, the only tool in the arsenal, welcome Mr. Tosin, the only tool in the arsenal of some people in Nigeria is propaganda. And like I said, if you have been here for a while and you've listened to me for a while, it didn't start today. It started in the 1930s. The idea of using propaganda to drive a narrative started first with Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. And how do I know that? Because I've read excerpts and news items from the West African Pilot that was published in 1937, 1938, 39, 1940, 41, 42, up until 49. There are bits and pieces that you can just put together. And you can read, you can tell the direction of, his thought process. And that's why I never for once have this delusion that it was Zik of Africa or like it was Pan-Africanist. That is not true. Unless, of course, we're just talking. If we're just talking, go. If you just talk, it's okay. But if we're talking about reality, that's a totally different matter. And so Papa said something about Zik, for instance, in his book. The book is called Awo, the autobiography of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. He said something, he said, Nigeria. I believe that to be true, having read some things from Zik, and also having read about him from other people. And I'm not saying he was a bad man, I'm just saying that this idea of using propaganda started with him as far as the Southeast is concerned, which is what we still see till today. Why am I saying all of this? Because when we have conversations about the war, and again, terrible event, people died, regardless of who they were or whatever tribe they belong to or whatever ethnic group they belong to, nobody should have to die for that, which is one of the pains that I have about the war, because it was a needless war. But you see, whenever people talk about the war, you have folks saying things like, we still want Biafra because even folks in the South were part of a statement by the man himself, Ojuku, saying that he knew that the Rivers people were not with him. And you will soon see from the other book by Elechi Amadi how those people were seen as saboteurs and they were killed. Not one, two, not in dozens. I'm talking in scores, in hundreds. By the time you get to Akwa Ibom, you see that one as well. Terrible things happen there. Why are we putting this out there? So that the young ones today will not be carried away by the rhetoric of, oh, we are victims, let's fight again. 1 second, please. And then they will tell you, oh, your father supported it back then, so you too must support it because that shows that you're a good person. And then they will tell you, oh, your father supported it back then, so you too must support it because that shows that you're a good person. It's a lie. Your fathers did not support it. I'm saying it not because I hate any group, but because that's the truth. And the person who was fighting all over the place himself admitted that the Rivers people did not support it. 1 second, though. Guys, just a second, please.
Rex. Well, sorry. Bobby, bring the lip balm. Lip gloss or lip balm here. Then bring all the paper and pencil and Shotiri. Then bring everything in pencil. You need gloves. You need down. That thing is small container. Down.
There's no small container.
If I say get down and see it, that I put on my lips. Looks red.
No, it's not red.
I fell just now. Don't worry. Sorry about that.
Sorry about that. All right. Sorry about that. And so you hear this thing about, oh, your father supported this, and they will tell you something like, oh, Filipeffiong was the one that led the army. It's tokenism. It's this thing where they say, oh, because there's one person that did this from your place, that means that your entire ethnic group supported it. And so, for instance, I've heard someone say something the other day, say, can you tell us the ethnic groups that supported Biafra? The point is not really about ethnic groups, it's about individuals, right? And if individuals supported something, it doesn't mean that the ethnic group as a whole supported it, especially when you know the history behind the whole idea of Eastern Consultative Forum. It's something that a lot of people talk about, oh, Eastern Consultative Forum, people just did this, just supported it from everywhere. It's a lie. It's a rubber stamp assembly that was created to essentially, just say yes to everything Ojuku and his minions, were about at the time. And we're saying this so that we don't have another generation fall into that trap of saying people supported it. This is Ojuku saying, I know. I'm going to read one more time. It says here, I know that I have not been accepted by the Rivers people. I know that I have not made my influence really felt in that area. When was this? This was April 3rd, 1968. It's about 1 year since the war started, or since he declared Biafra. And then it says he appealed to me to do everything that lay in my power to win the Rivers people over to his side. I was too surprised to offer any definite help, even though I had much for which to be grateful to him. And that is that he had prefaced his short speech with an observation which cleared my name of all the malicious allegations of treachery and sabotage. All right, we're going to move from here. Then he said it was disagreement and not subversion. There's something I read yesterday I feel I should read again today. So he says here, okay, I found it. So he said he talked to Ojuku about the people who were suffering in his own region. He told him of folks who were being killed by Biafran forces. And then he says, I mentioned a few of the atrocities of which I was personally aware, highlighting them with the public execution without trial of 2 persons. Creeks at Abonema. On Sunday, 31st March 1968. Guys, there might be no. I'm surrounded by cables. And I want to make sure I'm not distracted, so sorry about this. I think we're good for now. Why is YouTube banging? Okay, so let's go on. So he says, I mentioned a few of the atrocities of which I was personally aware, highlighting them with the public execution without trial of 2 persons accused of taking food to federal troops somewhere in the creeks at Abonema on Sunday, March 31, 1968. The provincial administrator thereupon remarked that the summary execution of suspects had been authorized by the highest authority in Umuahia, but this did not draw any note of surprise or evoke any refutation from the head of state. In other words, he's talking about how 2 people were killed without trial, or executed without trial, and he expected Ojuku to at least say something about it, but it evoked no refutation. Now, please, what I'm about to read now may sound a bit monotonous, but stay with me. Being aware of his indifference to human suffering, I was not altogether surprised by the complete absence of disavowal on the part of Ojuku when I was cataloging the atrocities. I'm going to jump because of time. On the other hand, he gave us a number of reasons as to why he thought the Rivers people were not with him, and why, in actual fact, many of the leaders were defecting to the federal side through Bonny to Lagos. It was a matter of simple arithmetic, he said, and having regard to the fact that odds were in Gowon's favor, rather than on Gowon's side, rather than his. Then he says, I might have said it earlier that Ojuku had, during my short period of acquaintance with him, left me in no doubt as to his political ambition. Please, if you have not been listening before, really if you're from the southeast, listen please. It says, I might have said it earlier that Ojuku had, during my short period of acquaintance with him, left me in no doubt as to his political ambition. I would defend him against any accusation that he altogether concealed from his followers the real motive spring of his secession. The truth, rather, is that he paraded his ambition before them, although at the same time he pretended that the realization of his dream of empire would ultimately inure to their benefit. I'll explain everything when they talk now. They come. If they pretend not to have understood him, they must blame their misconceptions not upon him entirely, but on a natural group tendency not to examine, criticize, and query, or else they must acknowledge their self-deception. What is he saying? He's saying that Ojuku did not hide his ambition, and he didn't hide the fact that he was ambitious. And so there's nobody working with him that would deny that fact, or unless they're deceiving themselves. I said the only thing you can say is that he made it look like they had something to benefit from his rise or from his empire building ambition. And I've said it several times, Ojuku wanted to build an empire. If we get there, I'm going to probably read some things from an Enauro's speech in 1968. You will see it there. And one of the reasons for that was because there is no history of empire building where he is from. It may sound like an insult, but it's not an insult. It's just the fact of history. There's no chiefs, there's no kingdoms, there's no empires, there's nothing. There's not just him. You see it in the policies of Azikiwe, you see it in the policies of Ironsi. You see it in the way people move from that side. The idea basically was to have Nigeria, give them that possibility that they didn't have before Nigeria. And so what he wanted to do, he didn't hide it. He made it very clear. And that's why I said that whenever you listen to certain elders, I'm saying knowledgeable elders, when you hear them speak about Ojuku, they tend to sound totally different from the regular thing that you hear everywhere, because they know exactly what happened. So let's go back to the book again now. All right, so it says, I'm going to jump from all of this and go to the atrocities that happened in that region. Then we'll move from here to another book. If you're here on TikTok, please don't stop heart tapping on 46K. Let's get this thing to 70. Thank you. 47 now. Thank you. Let's get it to 70. On YouTube, on Facebook, please share the live. Thank you very much for your support. Let's go on. So I confronted Ojuku with the atrocities and molestations which the Rivers people everywhere were suffering at the hands of Biafran soldiers and other official personnel. I have already mentioned the public executions to which I specifically called his attention. That was a crime against the people as heinous in quality as it was barbarous in mode of accomplishment. At about 9 o'clock in the morning of Sunday, March 31, 1968, the head of the rebel army at Degema, a lieutenant colonel, went over to Abonema from Degema with his firing squad, with the two men condemned without trial and without any opportunity whatsoever of being heard. There were in fact three originally, but on the way to Abonema, the third man jumped into the river in a bid to escape to freedom and justice. Sorry, in a bid to escape. Let me take that again. There were in fact three originally, but on the way to Abonema, the third man jumped into the river in a bid to escape to freedom and justice, but was shot at immediately, and his was a watery grave. Then having arrived, there's something not quite right. Sorry, guys. So there were 3 people being taken, and then one jumped into the river, but they shot him before he even got in there. So that's why I call it a watery grave. Then, having arrived at Abonema, his lieutenants and men went into all the churches in town and drove there out the congregations who had already assembled for morning service, and sent them to the market square to see what example was going to be made of enemies of the state. Biafra, he said, was a Christian country, but state security took precedence over Christian principles. And so, a crowd of some 10,000, including the very old and the very young, having gathered in the marketplace, he produced the 2 condemned men, accused them of having taken food to Nigerian soldiers somewhere in the swamps, not very far from Abonema, and notwithstanding their protestation of innocence, ordered his firing squad to open fire on them at once. And so they died. And then he went on to say that no longer did the government of Biafra require the cooperation of the people of Abonema, and that on the slightest suspicion, future culprits were going to be dealt with similarly. To the people residing in the Abonema-Degema area, the said public executions were only a public display of deliberate practices which had been going on at Degema, the divisional headquarters, under cover of darkness for a long time, of which they were already aware. Languishing in the army cells there, as in other places throughout the so-called Igbo heartland, were hundreds of Rivers men and women arrested and detained for no other reason than that they were not Igbos, or that they had not come out in open support of Biafra, even though they might not have been accused of anything savoring of subversion or sabotage. Then, under the aforesaid Lieutenant Colonel, grew the practice of calling out of their cells, listen to this, calling out of their cells every night some 4 or 5 of such detainees and taking them to face the firing squad. Then on the following day, their bodies will be found floating on the Sombrero River. And woe betide that man who offered to remove the body of a relative or friend for burial on land. In this way, many well-known and well-connected Calabari young men, civil servants and policemen among them, met their violent ends. Altogether, prior to the aforesaid public executions, no fewer than 200 people, I'll take that again. Altogether, prior to the aforesaid public executions, no fewer than 200 souls had perished through this process. Where is this happening? Rivers State. Whenever people cry to you about Rivers people are bad there, but I'm not saying everybody is perfect though. People have issues, but understand that there's usually something behind it. When you occupy people's houses and take it over because you have Biafra, when Biafra ends and they call those people your own buildings abandoned properties, it's terrible. But understand why they did it. And that's not the only reason, by the way. There's also the issue of acquisition. There's the issue of loans. But that's on today's topic. When the area came to have its first crop of Marine commandos recently passed out, it got as well to witness a new mode of killing. The commandos had acquired new techniques of killing and learned some judo. In the detention cells in both Degema and Abonema, they had living, sparing objects upon which to try out their newly acquired skill. And the result was many more deaths of innocent and unprovoking Rivers people. And all the time in the rivers and creeks around offered gruesome real evidence of unmitigated genocide. Competing for places on them with the bodies of persons disposed of in the manners already described were those of poor innocent fish traders plying up and down the rivers and creeks of the River State in search of their daily bread in their traditional merchantmen who had fallen prey to the greed or just sport of Biafran soldiers patrolling such rivers and creeks. Guys, sorry, every time we have meetings like this, we have fools who also sleep. So Zoigwe, I'm not going to block you, I'll just mute you. They're going into the river or had their hands and as hearts to complain. If killing offered an opportunity of sport or fun, then beating offered even greater entertainment. And in this respect, there was no class distinction. And in this respect, there was no class distinction in traditionally stratified man and woman, boy and girl, chief and commoner, all alike. None was too big or too unimportant to escape the militiaman's whip. Was too big or too unimportant to escape the militiaman's whip or the butt of the Biafran rifle. One nobleman, Chief Miller Dick Harry Braid, was in fact beaten to death. The occasional Ikwere market upon the breakaway east, under the weight of which all Biafrans were writhing. Then too were the cases of arson of I don't have to. Then too were the cases of arson of I don't have to explain any of these things. I'm sure you are getting it. Let's continue. Then home of the Kalabari people, Elenifoko, Sema, to name just a few, and the communities of Erisekiri, Lelekiri, and more than 20 fishing settlements were burnt down by Biafran soldiers. And when their residents went home to their villages to seek other employment, they were followed there, arrested on one pretext or another, and taken away to the detention camps or to face the firing squad. On Monday, 26 February 1968, well over 100 male persons from the villages of Angulama and Minama were removed from the said villages, taken first to Degema, where they were mercilessly beaten by a number of rebel soldiers and by the Lieutenant Colonel himself. By the way, this Lieutenant Colonel is not Ojuku. He's another guy who called himself, who they gave the title Lieutenant Colonel. So he beat them very well. Then removed to the detention cells in Rainbow Town, Port Harcourt, the site of the headquarters of the 52nd Brigade of the Biafran Army, from which they were, it was later revealed, led to face the firing squad. They were accused of being infiltrators from the Nigerian army, but heaven knows that they were poor, unsophisticated fishermen. Somebody asked what's the title of the book. The book is titled Ojuku's Rebellion and World Opinion by Nebo Graham Douglas. Those are people who were being killed though. Let's go on. By the way, this same thing happened in Port Harcourt. I'll read that later. Shortly thereafter, all the males from the age of about 12 years of the village of Kaladakema, a few miles from the Degema station, were removed therefrom, first detained at Degema, and then taken to the Rainbow Town Detention Center. Guys, man, these questions are too many now. I've already answered this question like 10 times this morning. Please go to the Telegram channel. The link is in there. Please, let me try and concentrate. Just go to the Telegram channel. You'll find it there. I've said it again and again today alone. Please. Thank you. And the only reason we're putting that one there is because you're not going to be able to find the hard copy. Unless, of course, maybe you know the family members, or if you know people who are there from far. So what I did basically was to get the one that was scanned, and but we can't do it for every book. So please, I'm saying this because people also ask, PDF. I can't do that. But by tomorrow, we're going to put out a way that you can buy, these books, okay? And then that way we can all read together. But this one that I'm reading right now is in the Telegram channel, and you can take advantage of it. So please, Anyo Baba, you know what? You may not. Maybe you were not here. Oh, thank you, UIG. Thank you. I was just about to type it. So, Ayababa, please use the link that UIG just put on TikTok, and please join the channel on Telegram. You will find it there. Thank you for understanding. Now, please, if I don't respond to any what's the title, it's not because I'm being, funny. It's just that I'm trying to concentrate. So let's get back into this. So I already talked about what happened in Kalabari area, Elenifoko, Kalabari, Sema, Angulama, Minama. So I want to read something else now. Shortly thereafter, all the males from the age of about 12 years of the village of Kaladakema, or Kaladekema, a few miles from Degema station, were removed therefrom, first detained at Degema and then taken to the Rainbow Town Detention Center, from which subsequently many were taken to face the firing squad. Their sin, this is their sin. Their village is well known for its strong Christian leanings and preoccupation. It used to be the site of a devoted, well-organized prayer group, whose head was a young woman well respected for her powers of healing and vision. To the meeting place often resorted people from all over the Kalabari area and beyond, requiring special prayers and so on. Then sometime, word reached the notorious Lieutenant Colonel that the prayer group was not saying prayers for the success of Biafra in the raging war, but was in the habit of saying prayers for Nigeria. In consequence, the village was raided and everybody found therein arrested. Later, the women, including the leader of the band, were released to Port Harcourt, as already narrated. Eventually, the prayer house was set on fire and they were enjoined not to hold prayer meetings any longer. In a similar manner, other prayer houses in the area had been closed, and Biafra is a Christian country. Apart from such atrocities, as were matters of daily occurrence, I mean, people didn't pray for you, so you burned down their prayer houses and beat all those people. But you are the victim of all this story. Anybody else cannot claim to have suffered anything. To do that is to fight you, and you don't have political power. So what it means basically is that if you have political power, there will be no history in Nigeria. And let me say something, just to be, I want to respond to people in the comment section. It's war. I mean, war can reveal crazy things in human beings. Like, it's a terrible situation. Things that you wouldn't even believe that you could do. You might find yourself doing it. But you see, having done it, when people now talk about what you did, you shouldn't be trying to shut them up and tell them that, they're somehow doing something against you. That's the issue I have. I mean, it's bad enough that terrible things happened, but the real issue is the fact that people cannot even talk about it without you saying that they're bigots or they're haters. That's the real issue. Who's the Lieutenant Colonel? It did not provide his name. We're going to read more. Don't worry. If you're looking for names, we'll find names when we get to an hour speech. Apart from such atrocities, as were matters of daily occurrence, there were the organized ones which took place in waves. I have already mentioned the cases of arson. Early in February 1968, two strategic villages on the New Calabar and Sombrero rivers, commanding the approaches to Abonema Degema from Boni, fell to federal troops. Soon, word went round that a majority of the troops who displaced the rebel soldiers therein were Rivers young men, predominantly Kalabari. By the way, we're talking about Kalabari, we're still going to talk about Ijo, we'll talk about UBO. Who is this? Where was I? Apart from such atrocities as were matters of daily occurrence, there were the organized ones which took place in waves. I have already mentioned the cases of arson. Early in February 1968, two strategic villages and Degema from Boni fell to federal troops. Soon, word went round that a majority of the troops who displaced the rebel soldiers therein were Rivers young men, predominantly Kalabari. As a reprisal, the towns in the area were to be punished. This is what both the provincial secretary Degema and the notorious Lieutenant Colonel told me a few days before I was arrested and taken. And I have to just mute them. I'm trying not to block anybody, so you can be here with. and I have to just mute them. I'm trying not to block anybody, so you can be here with your stupidity. Hopefully, when you hear this, it's going to help your destiny. Because at this point, your stupidity. Hopefully, when you hear this, it's going to help your destiny. Because at this point, some people are cursed. Some people are cursed. Because it takes. Man. If you think this is actually talking about your ethnic group, then you are dumb. And I've been seeing people in the comment section. If you think this is about your ethnic group, you are dumb. We're talking about how, when we talked about how the Igbo suffered, how come you guys were okay with me saying that one? Just that I'm talking about what happened to Kalabari, you are crying as if you are. You know what? Keep crying. Where were we? We were where we were. I found it. As a reprisal, the towns in the area were to be punished. This is what the Provincial Secretary Degema and the notorious Lieutenant Colonel told me a few days before I was arrested and taken away. As a result, the entire population of Bakana, one of the 3 principal towns of Kalabari, amounting to some 10,000 persons, was removed therefrom and sent to various places in the Igbo hinterland, to such places as Umuahia, Owerri, Abiriba, Ozuitem, and so on, where no provision was made for their housing and feeding. Some died in the process. 1 second, please. Some died in the process, and a number managed to find their way back to the Port Harcourt area, where friendly Ikwere villagers found them. Some died in the process, and a number managed to find their way back to the Port Harcourt area, where friendly Ikwere villagers found them accommodation. But all the men of military service age were taken away, and up till the liberation of the Port Harcourt and Degema areas by federal troops, nothing had been heard of them. That was towards the end of February. At about the same time, a number of prominent chiefs and gentlemen were arrested and taken away from the towns of Buguma and Abonema, detained first at Degema and then at Port Harcourt, where a few were on earth grounds allowed to be taken on bail by close relatives on the one condition that they did not move out of Port Harcourt. Fortunately, such persons were physically liberated by the federal troops when they took Port Harcourt. These were followed in some Mbise villages and so on. Heaven knows how many of them are still alive. There can be no end to a catalogue of Biafran atrocities in the rivers area. Those I have set out are those of which I have first-hand knowledge. Of some, I was an eyewitness. All this happened in the Kalabari area, but every other area in the river state has its own stories to narrate. Let me finish this before I move on to the other thing. It says here, at the time I was confronting Ojuku with the atrocities, there must have been no fewer than 6,000 detainees from the river state in various concentration camps throughout Igbo land. And there, when you hear the word concentration camp, what do you think of? Do you not think, you know what you think from different books, which confirms what the other gentleman was saying in the book about how Victor Banjo and the rest of them were unalive, when he mentioned that Ojuku was using Adolf Hitler strategies. And if you think this is against your people, again, you are not thinking. It's not about you. How do I say? Let me find a way to say it so you get it. What I mean basically is that this is supposed to help free you, because you are in bondage and the chains are invisible. The audio quality on YouTube is going in and out. Oh, sorry about that. I hope it's better now. Please let me know if it gets better or when it gets better or if any other thing happens. Ola said, thank you so much. I really appreciate your feedback. So the truth is, this is me trying to tell you the other side. Thank you. So the truth is, this is me trying to tell you the other side of the story, so that when you go to River State, for instance, and you see people in Abonema act a certain way, all you are saying is that they hate you. Oh, they hate us. They hate us. These people hate us. They hate us in the Gema. They hate us in Abonema. The Kalabari hate us. They just hate us. Ikwere hate us. While you are doing all this, your hate parade, understand that there is some things happened before. Maybe they don't even hate you. Maybe they just fed up with panging to your nonsense. So he says at the time he spoke to Ojuku, let's get back into this. So he says at the time he spoke to Ojuku, there were at least 6,000 detainees from the Rivers area, from the Rivers State, in various concentration camps throughout Igbo land. And there were the innumerable thousands of Rivers people seeking refuge from the depredations of Ojuku soldiers in various refugee camps in the Midwestern states, not to mention those who had been able to get to Lagos. From subsequent indications, I believe the number of Rivers detainees in Ojuku's concentration camp has reached the 10,000 mark. After my own arrest and removal to Port Harcourt, I was kept under surveillance during the period preceding my actual physical detention. And during that period, like other Rivers people in Port Harcourt, I was shocked by the news of the treatment of the Rivers State villagers of Bolo and Ogu in Okirika clan and One in Eleme clan. On or about March 27, 1968, after what came to be known as the Battle of One, all the inhabitants of these three villages were taken to the Rainbow Town headquarters of the Biafran 52 Brigade in Port Harcourt. The men were separated from the women. What happened to the latter, I did not hear. Presumably, they were sent to refugee camps in Igbo land. The men, upwards of 300, I saw at Rainbow Town myself. They were detained there, accused of having offered facilities for military operations in the area to federal troops. But soon, they became Hausa soldiers, and before long, all Port Harcourt was talking about the Hausa soldiers whose bodies floating in a crude oil pit in an Ikwere village, not far from the city, had offered entertainment to credulous Igbo men and women in and around Port Harcourt. I'm going to read something about those bodies floating on oil. Not this one. Where's this book called? One second, please. Found it. On ball. Quick share. A lot of the pain, or let me find a better way to say it. I think that because people don't talk about what happened, I'm not saying to talk about it just to infuriate people and get folks who hate ethnic groups. That's not the point. But as in talk about what happened so that people appreciate, they are able to understand the reasons for certain actions, essentially. But because, folks don't talk about it, we don't really know what's happening. And I can assure you, if more people listen to this from the Southeast, and I hope they do, if not live, maybe they watch the video later, they can watch it nicodemously. What would happen is that we're going to have more Igbos that are aware, that understand how life works, and that become more, what's the word now? Less susceptible. They become less susceptible to be brought into groups or taken into groups that I don't get what I'm saying. So if, for instance, people understand this and they hear these things, then if somebody comes to them and tells them, oh, you are hated, they will at least know. Will be able to understand. This is why history is important. It's not so that I can make the Igbo person look like a demon. And that's nothing. That's not the point. The issue is just that if more people know that, they will not be moving into that spirit of self-destruction. Why is the date important? To be honest, one of the major reasons why that date is important is because it tells you when Igbos got to the rivers area. That's what it says. That's what it tells you, when the Igbos got to the rivers area. And if you ask me, and this is, even folks from Rivers State, they also need to get this information, because people know they tell you, say that their own waiting your papa give you, just like they are doing now with Tife. And guys, nobody should come here and say they cannot do it. They've done it. Now they're saying Igbora, Igbomina, places that were already developed before Ajayi Crowther got to Onitsha, where people were still. No, they just stop. I don't like bringing some books to the public, but there's a book I want to recommend. It's called On the Banks of River Niger, on the banks of the Niger. Ajayi Crowther explained what happened to him between 1857 and 1859. He got to Onitsha in 1857, and he explained some things. He tells us what he found there and what they were able to accomplish there, and the work of missions. This was in 1857. At this time, they were Yoruba graduates. So, may God bless all of us. But it's those people that now come and tell you that they founded your town. Town that was happening centuries before you were found. When Ajayi Crowther got to this place in 1857, people were moving naked though. Some people were using just something to cover their private parts. Some of them. I don't go to the details, but I'm just telling you how rewriting people's history will only get you bulala. You get bulala from words. You also get bulala in real life. You are talking like a bunch of retards. Igbomina, Ijebu Igbo, Igbo. There's a place in Lagos, not Igbo Shere. There's another one, Oyigbo. And by the way, maybe I'll talk about it one day. I saw a document about it. When they were going to change the spelling of this Igbo to Igbo, this was one of the major problems that people were talking about. And the pronunciation itself is never Igbo. It's Igbo. The spelling has never been Igbo. And the pronunciation itself is never Igbo. It's Igbo. Igbo may not be Igbo. Why is that important? Why is that important? Because it's the exact same thing happening in Port Harcourt. Today Jesus says we are children of the living God. But as far as is that spiritual, children of the living God. But as far as is that spiritual, spiritually we are all related. We are all children. And that's fine. What's happening to this network? You two people, sorry, I don't know what's happening now. I think we're good though. The head of issue. Issue did not make himself now. Oba, Ọlọ́run ayérayé. Oku. Prof, you cannot be mentioning what I told us and be saying you're almost sure. Choose one, no. Choose one, no. In fact, now that you type it, just remember right now. You say CNS. CNS okay say on say Amulu Malao. All right, let's go back. No, it's not all join. That question is the most ceremonial deal. It's all join. Baba was actually very, very, very vehemently against those practices. Could they work? A spiritual Jew will not prophesy that God will compensate the. Well, let me just, guys. I'm just trying to see to make sure that everything is fine. I think YouTube is okay. There's something I'm looking for on this.
Maybe because I have no other place to say it.
The way I speak, do you know, guys? Would you believe that I don't speak Yoruba like this, like normally? You guys are it's when I come, I find it just maybe because I have no other place to say it, to speak like that. So I have the privilege and the honor of speaking Ibadan dialect. All right, I think we're good. So thank you very much. If you're on YouTube, I'm sure you can see us better now, and there will be conversation.
On the 2nd April 1968, there was
Emotional is also one of the reasons I've been taking my time, because on the night of Tuesday, 2nd April 1968, there was prolonged rifle. By the way, this is from page 69 of Sunset in Biafra by Elechi Amadi. On the night of Tuesday, 2nd April 1968, there was prolonged rifle fire not far from the village. Although Port Harcourt was now being encircled by federal troops, I did not think they could be anywhere near my village at that time. Still, the intermittent shooting disturbed me. The next morning, we were told that some federal soldiers had been killed in a skirmish. There was to be a general combing to ensure that no enemy soldiers were hiding anywhere. Villagers were urged to go and have a look at the slain enemy soldiers, so that they would realize that the victories claimed over the radio were not mere propaganda. Joining the considerable stream of sightseers, I reached a large pit into which waste crude oil from an oil well had been diverted. Remember one second, please. Remember what we read. How did we get here? We got here from the book by Neil Graham Douglas. We're talking about certain bodies floating on. Let me read that again. Guys, this is how I study. So, try and understand. It helps us connect things, right? So let me read that part again. It says, on or about March 27, I'm reading World Opinion now, Ojuku's Rebellion and World Opinion. It says here, on or about March 27, 1968, after what came to be known as the Battle of One, all the inhabitants of those three villages, what villages is talking about? Bolo and Ogu and One in Eleme clan. It says all the inhabitants of those three villages were taken to the Rainbow Town headquarters of the Biafran 52 Brigade in Port Harcourt. The men were separated from women. What happened to the latter, I did not hear, so we don't know what happened to the women. So it says presumably they were sent to refugee camps in Igbo land. The men, upwards of 300, I saw at Rainbow Town myself. Who is myself? Who is saying I saw myself? Is Neil Graham Douglas, the former Attorney General of Eastern Region. He said this, the men I saw myself. Offered facilities for military operations in the area to federal troops. But soon, but soon they became Hausa soldiers. Hausa. And before long, all Port Harcourt was talking about the Hausa soldiers whose bodies floating not far from the city had offered entertainment to credulous Igbo men and women in and out. But the point I'm bringing from here is that they found their bodies floating. They were Kalabari. They were rivers people. They called them Hausa, and then the next thing, their bodies were floating in crude oil pits. Now, since we've established that, let's now go back to the book by Elechi Amadi. Who is Elechi Amadi, by the way? Where is Elechi Amadi from, by the way? Elechi Amadi is Ikwere. Remember that Neil Graham Douglas also mentioned here that Ikwere people offered some of those Kalabari people accommodation and shelter them. the Equity people, one of them is the one who now wrote this book that I'm about to read now. I'll start again. On the 9th of Tuesday, 2nd April 1968, who is the Equity man? Elechi Amadi. What's the book title? Sunset in Biafra. Please let's power tab, share the live, YouTube as well. Let's share the live. Thank you very much for your support. It says on the 9th of Tuesday, 2nd April 1968, there was prolonged rifle fire not far from the village. Although Port Harcourt was now being encircled by federal troops, I did not think there could be anywhere near my village at that time. Still, the intermittent shooting disturbed me. The next morning, we were told that some federal soldiers had been killed in a skirmish. Anywhere. Villagers were urged to go and have a look at the slain enemy soldiers, so that they would realize that the victories claimed over the radio were not mere propaganda. Please listen, please pay attention. Joining the considerable stream of sightseers, I reached a large pit into which waste crude oil from an oil well had been diverted. Floating on the oil, this was written in 73, that was written in 68. Floating on the oil were many bloated bodies turned face downwards. Blood was still oozing out from bullet holes in some of them. None of the dead wore any uniform. Why is this important? Remember what Nebugram Douglas said. They said they were Hausa soldiers, but
They're supposed to be Hausa soldiers. So what would you expect? Camouflage. You expect uniforms, right?
they're supposed to be Hausa soldiers. So what would you expect? Camouflage. You expect uniforms, right? So it says here, none of the dead wore any uniform. They were dressed in singlets, shirts, and wrappers, or like we say in Nigeria, wrapper. Then wear singlets. Some of them were much like a recently used wrestling arena. The sides of the pit bore the marks of hands and feet that vainly tried to claw their way out. For a while, I gazed tongue-tied at the sickening sight. Then I began to count the bodies. I stopped at 160 and guessed that there must have been at least 200 bodies. Who were these men who went to war in wrappers?
They were reverse people.
They were reverse people taken into Port Harcourt and then called Hausa and then unalived. The reason I like to use more than one book, I think you can get it now. The Eleme clan people, thank you, UIG.
The next day, the secessionist radio announced that a waterborne attack on Port
Let's continue. The next day, the secessionist radio announced that a waterborne attack on Port Harcourt had been repulsed and that the enemy had suffered heavy casualties. This is where people's parents got their information from. The secessionist radio. What did they tell us? The truth? No. It's propaganda. The next day, the secessionist radio announced that a waterborne attack on Port Harcourt had been repulsed and that the enemy had suffered heavy casualties. Then the truth came out. The victims were in fact natives of a riverine village. They had been carted away and slain 30 miles from their home on the pretext that they were aiding the enemy. Does this confirm what Nebugram Douglas said? Yes. I actually feel somehow, so I'm trying to pace myself. I'm not go cry for a live stream. The victims were in fact natives of a riverine village. They had been carted away and slain 30 miles from their home on the pretext that they were aiding the enemy. The message was clear. No one was safe. A federal soldier. There was a regular picnic at the scene of the massacre. Thousands of sightseers traveled down from Port Harcourt and elsewhere to have a look at the corpses. A man who had escaped was later combed out. Dry leaves clung tenaciously all over his oily body. He looked like Papageno, the birdman in Mozart's Magic Flute. As he tried to make a statement, the hapless man was silenced and led away. After 3 days, the bodies began to stink terribly. I lodged a complaint with the health authorities, and a bulldozer was dispatched to fill in the pit of death. For me, this incident was easily the most harrowing in the entire war. It brought out the horrors of war in their full nakedness. From that point onwards, the life of anyone who openly opposed the secessionists was not worth much. I have to take a short break. I'll just talk. I'll just try and get out. Again, let's remind ourselves, these books I'm reading, we're talking about lives. It gets generator. The inverter is off. There's nothing to check. People of God. Hello. Audio. The nice is still this one and not the cheaper one. So please. We've talked about what happened in the Midwest. We've talked about what happened in Rivers area, Calabari, Degema, Abonema, on Eleme, all those places. We talk about what happens to them. This is why when people now shout that certain people hate you, just remember that their own parents also have stories. Oh, not the only. And by the way, some of your stories are propaganda driven and propaganda leading. Let's go to another book now. This one is a bit more. I mean, everything is terrible, to be honest, at this point. I'm looking for a way to even run away from this part of the story. That one. I'll still read it. I'm just trying to see if there's something else I can read before getting. Give me some time. Let's talk about something else and we'll go into that one. These things are very emotional, and I don't think it's just cool to be jumping from one story of death, to another. It's not fun. So let's just read a few things before we get into what happened in Ẹkáàbọ. I'm going to read from Crisis and Conflict in Nigeria, Volume 2. This is Chief Anthony Anaoro. His speech was given at Addis Ababa on 12th August 1968. It says here, in the former eastern region of Nigeria, Bibios, Ekois, and the Ijos about area. Please, on YouTube, please let me know if you can, if it's working very well, because I want to be sure. Please, if you're on YouTube, please let me know if you're seeing this very well, please. Because I just want to be sure everything is fine, but I think it's good. But please just let me know. Just let me know if you're seeing what we're doing. Sound is good. Thank you, Mr. Kenneth. Thanks a lot. Thank you. But it seems network is not too good. What could be the problem? 1 second, please. YouTube, just give me a second. Let me just check. Should be good. All right, let's just go on. In the former eastern region of Nigeria, the Igbos numbered about 7 million, and the Efiks and Ibibios, Ekois, and Ijos about 5 million. Half of the land area of the region belonged to these 5 million so-called minorities. Half of the land belonged to the so-called minorities. Again, guys, I apologize. I have to belonged to the agricultural exports. 16 million of the 25 million came from the eastern minorities. In other words, and we've done this math before, 16 out of 25 is 9 over 16, 3 over 4. That's 75%. Right? No. 4 over 5. That's 80%. The minorities were producing 80%. It's not 75%, it's 80. 16 over 25 is 4 over 5 times 100. 5 in 100 is 20. 20 times 4 is 80. 80%. The minorities were producing 80% of the agricultural products of Eastern region. So hold that one in your hand. You understand the reason for Biafra. Biafra is not about anybody's. Nobody really cares about the minorities. It's just what they have or what they had and what they still have now. That's really what this is all about. Whatever will make a person sit down in one place and say Edo are part of Biafra and Gala part of Biafra, Calabar, just do like say there's something they're looking for. So even back then, 60 million pounds out of 25 million pounds. Sorry, guys. I keep getting these irritants coming. 60 million pounds out of 25 million pounds of annual agricultural exports from the east came from the river state and the Midwest, and not the Igbo state, not the East Central Igbo state. So, which mathematics are you doing, Raf K? If somebody gives you 60 million out of 25 million, how is that going to be 64%? 16 out of 25. Guys, let's do some math though. Which kind of mathematics you people they do? Oh, he's right. You're right. You're right. 16 out of 25. 25 goes there in 4. 4 times 16 is 64. So I was right. I was right. You're right. You are correct. You are correct. It's 64%. Why did I change my mind? I don't know. Oh, I was doing as if it's true. Sorry. You're right. It's 64%. Thank you for even reminding me, for correcting me. 16, 25, 3 over 4. Oh, I see where the problem is. You know what the problem was? I was doing 4 over 5. It can't be 4 over 5. 16 over 25 would not be 4 over 5. That would be 16 over 20. I was thinking it was 20 million pounds. Thank you. I just remembered I was using 20 million pounds to judge. Yes. Thank you for correcting. So it's 25. 16 of 25 is 64%. So 64% of what of the agricultural goals, but they had more to contribute. So take that one to say 64% of the agricultural revenue comes from them. That's one thing you should remember, please. 64%, right? So that leaves 36 to the Igbos. The oil that's exported from Nigeria also comes from 2 major places, by the way. It's from rivers and that stuff by Uilawa or Swanlele is called the Midwest Response to Biafran Occupation. He mentioned in there that Ojuku had actually proposed that Midwest and Eastern region should have a consortium as far as oil is concerned, and that he had already drafted all the agreements and just make David Ejo agree. Thank God that one no agree. The whole idea is just to be stealing people's stuff. So the oil is from rivers. The oil is not from East Central states. That's the Igbo area. So you don't. The land for agriculture no day, oil no day. Let's continue. Moreover, stress that all the pipelines run through the rivers area, which is a portion of the former eastern region. That's the people that we're talking about, the other one. Also, the only empty lands left in the east for settlement are in Ogoja and Calabar minority areas. What do you mean empty lands? It means that you won't build something now, you won't build estates, where people go live. You know, 2 days like that for the East Central State, you have to go. Most of it will be in the Ogoja area, the Calabar area. Of course, you know COR, Calabar, Ogoja provinces, and the Rivers provinces. So they have more land. So essentially, these minorities have every single thing that Ojuku wanted. But they are the ones that were being killed. It can be seen, therefore, that one of the motives of some Igbo leaders in the declaration secession. It can be seen, therefore, that one of the motives of some Igbo leaders in declaring secession was to ensure that the Igbos appropriated these enormous benefits from the so-called minority areas. This situation could not endure, and any attempt by the Igbo leaders to perpetuate it would have failed, but after much bloodshed. Once group frustrations are removed, there is no reason why the Igbos cannot continue to live in peace in the so-called minority areas and other parts of Nigeria, contributing their quota to the economy of the state of their residents, which is what is happening right now. They are not, everybody's living everywhere, everybody's okay, but they have forgotten what happened. Because it's either you have forgotten or you are stupid that will make you do the thing that caused wahala back in the 60s. Okay, I know what to look. You have the book. Once those guys just enter your line, they'll just shout, page 52. Please listen. A popular saying among the less intelligent Igbos, the prized thing in Igbo land. In my village, Igbos who had been living among us peacefully for years, he walked fearlessly onto my family land and cleared a considerable chunk of it for farming purposes. When is Biafra land, end quote. I could go to court if I liked, is Biafra land, end quote. I could go to court if I liked, he advised. Underneath a pyramid of files, the plaintiff years without getting a hearing. The customary court would tell him, and quite rightly, that they were waiting. The land grabber could plant crops, and it was rumored that this was a carefully worked out device to do the natives out of their land. This was probably untrue, but in the circumstances, it was difficult not to believe it. If a little more, I watched helplessly as the trespasser beat deeper and deeper into our land, planting as he went. The particular piece of land in question did not matter very much. In fact, if the man had come in the usual way to ask for it, he would have got it without any trouble. As it was, he was deliberately carrying out an experiment, which, if successful, would have grave consequences for all landowners. The only thing to do was to put up a very bold front. With luck, the man might be frightened off. If, as often happened, he invited his tribesmen to help him, then I would just have to give up the unequal struggle. Let's read it a bit more. Early one morning, my brothers and I, armed with sharp knives and cudgels, took up positions on the farm. This is what they had to do. I conspicuously parked my battered Volkswagen by the roadside. By midday, nobody had appeared. We went home. We did this for a week without anyone showing up. Eventually, the farm was overrun with weeds. I had won a victory, but I knew it was Pyrrhic. It was a Pyrrhic victory. I was branded a saboteur, and many damning reports about me were sent to the militia, the civil defense, and the army headquarters in Port Harcourt and Umuahia, the new rebel capital. I had never felt so trapped in my life. Who is speaking here? Elechi Amadi. What book is this? My village was engaged in its annual 1967. My village was engaged in its annual please guys, listen to this story. Story, true life story. About this time, December 1967, my village was engaged in its annual fishing spree in Balam, a series of freshwater ponds very rich in fish. The Igbos living in our midst insisted on fishing. It is Biafra fish, they said. We resisted, knowing full well the possible repercussions. This is what Yoruba should get. When you hear, we found Lagos, you have to respond. You are not being petty, you are being wise. This thing has terrible ramifications.
The Igbos living in our midst. See, meanwhile, before now, everybody used to be together, no problem.
The Igbos living in our midst. Meanwhile, before now, everybody used to be together, no problem, like we're all brothers and sisters. Igbo, Yoruba, no Igbo, Ikwere, no problem. But as soon as that thing was declared Biafra, everybody just enter people land. They even enter people water. People where they fish, and Biafra fish. But more continue. We'll see how this one plays out, and then we'll go to the other stuff. It says, about this time, December 1967, my village was engaged in its annual fishing spree in Balam, a series of freshwater ponds very rich in fish. The Igbos living in our midst insisted on fishing. It is Biafra fish, they said. We resisted, knowing full well the possible repercussions. We were defeated. Secessionist soldiers were posted along the path to the ponds. Fishermen emerged. They were made to surrender. They just reacted splendidly. Or fight back. Spirit of Christmas, in spite of the tensions of war. Let me quickly balance something by saying the people who did this are not necessarily terrible human beings. It's just that war brings out crazy things in people. Which is why we say, more they calm down with all this thing of one fight, one break Nigeria, we just fight, we go fight. My father's, the one where your father not, where your papa not finish, one continue. If you buy, but beyond that, what if it affects other people? Is this the worst thing? Of course not. Let's go back to the book by A.H.M. Green. The book is called Crisis and Conflict in Nigeria, Volume 2. We're going to read an oral speech at Addis Ababa. Stay with me. You are all I need. So we already mentioned how they were trying to appropriate the enormous benefits, including fish, apparently, of the minority areas to themselves. With regards to the latest phase of the crisis, the reassurance must be given that the position of the Igbos is best guaranteed on a long-term basis in a Nigeria with 12 equal states. If 7 million Igbos are entitled to self-determination, equally so are 5 million Efiks, Ibibios, Ekois, and Ijos. In the present circumstances, even if the federal military government did nothing, those around Ojuku could never have enough power to contain the so-called minority of 5 million perpetually. Instability due to rebellion from the non-Igbo minorities will be inevitable. If the situation is not resolved now, the resulting bloodshed and chaos would be infinitely more disastrous to everyone concerned. So, you know why Biafra can never work and will never happen? It's because the people who want it want other people's lands. That's why it will never work. Because if you are deserving of self-determination, so also are the ethnic minorities. And perhaps even more so. Let's continue. With regard to the consequences which Igbos fear of the economic effect of losing the minority areas, in particular regarding the distribution of industries, stress must be laid on the peculiarities of the next stage of... Okay, let's leave this one. It's about industrial development plan in Nigeria. Let's go to the last paragraph. Captured documents. Okay, let me take just a little. The secessionist leaders claim that they are fighting for Igbo survival. This is simply was no peaceful way of wrenching the East out of Nigeria and destroying the substantial economic and social integration that had gone on for more than 50 years. For example, the railways, communication links, and numerous other assets could not be divided among successor sovereign states easily. Boundary disputes would be widespread. Most probably war would result, for which Ojuku had confidently prepared. Man, you look cool. I don't die, Jimmy, but mi ò kú dárúkọ yẹn kankan, so mo ní man yóò lè kú re ó tẹ̀ ti dá bẹ́ẹ̀ gan mi dárúkọ yẹn kankan, so I'm safe. It's amazing. Now it gets more interesting, so stay with me. Power Tab, share the live. We're about to get into some interesting stuff. Captured documents now confirm that the intention of the former Eastern authorities was to conquer the former Midwestern and Western regions, and then in a later phase, subdue the former Northern region. This was not surprising. Igbos need to work and trade over the whole of Nigeria, which they have always known in this century as their country. When I say that the Biafran idea was not about Southeast, this is where my quote is from. In fact, it's from two places. It's from here and it's from here. Should I read it? But here, if you read this book, you see this book is called A Break in the Silence, Lieutenant Colonel Adebukola Banjo by F. Adetun Ogunsheye. This woman is the first female professor in Nigeria. I think I've read some. I'm going to restart YouTube.